Welcome back to Sleepy English Academy. Today, we'll be learning English through audio listening.
Once upon a time, in a village nestled amongst rolling hills, lived a curious little firefly named Flick. Unlike other fireflies who chased each other and flashed their lights all night, Flick preferred to listen to the whispers of the wind under a bed of soft leaves. One warm summer evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, all the other fireflies gathered in a field of sunflowers. Flick watched from his leafy bed, wishing he could join their games but longing for a different kind of adventure. Suddenly, a tiny voice startled Flick. A small, silver ladybug named Luna emerged from a nearby daisy, having overheard his wish on the cloud. Luna offered Flick a ride on her back to explore the wonders of the night sky. Flick, filled with excitement, climbed onto Luna's back. They soared through the night, past sleepy owls and playful bats. Luna pointed out constellations, weaving stories that filled Flick's heart with wonder. After a magical flight, Luna gently returned Flick to his bed of leaves. Dawn was breaking, painting the sky with soft hues. With a grateful heart, Flick thanked Luna for the unforgettable adventure. Luna winked, reminding him that even the smallest light can illuminate the greatest journeys. As Flick drifted off to sleep, he dreamt of soaring amongst the stars, a tiny firefly with a heart full of adventure. My dear listener, I am new to YouTube. Please subscribe to my channel. Thank you.
In a bustling coral reef, lived a shy little seahorse named Shelly. Unlike other seahorses who clung to colorful fans and swayed with the current, Shelly preferred the quiet safety of a hidden cave. She spent her days peeking out at the vibrant world, her heart yearning to explore. One day, a playful shoal of clownfish zipped past Shelly's cave. "Come play with us," Shelly, a daring clownfish named Finny, called out. "We're going on an adventure to find the sunken treasure chest." Shelly's heart pounded. Sunken treasure? An adventure? It sounded thrilling, but the open ocean seemed so vast and scary. I can't," Shelly mumbled, hiding further back in her cave. Finny, sensing her fear, swam closer. "There's nothing to be afraid of, Shelly. We'll look after you." Shelly hesitated. The thought of swimming with the other fish was tempting. Finally, taking a deep breath, she agreed. Together, they followed Finny, weaving through swaying kelp forests and past grumpy pufferfish guarding their homes. Finny pointed out shimmering jellyfish and schools of fish that shimmered like jewels. The ocean was a mesmerizing kaleidoscope of life. Following a trail of shimmering bubbles left by a friendly hermit crab, they finally reached a clearing. There, nestled amongst smooth rocks, lay a wooden chest, barnacles clinging to its surface. Excitement bubbled inside Shelly. They had found the treasure, but as Finny pried the chest open, disappointment washed over them. Inside wasn't gold or jewels, but a collection of colorful seashells. Finny frowned. "But this isn't treasure." Shelly, however, gasped. The shells were unlike any she'd ever seen: pearlescent swirls, spiny spirals, and even a shell that shimmered with the colors of the rainbow. Suddenly, a wise old sea turtle swam by. "Ah, that's no ordinary collection, young ones," he chuckled. "Those are the stories of the sea, whispers of faraway lands and creatures from the deep." Shelly spent hours listening to the turtles' tales of the shell's journeys. Each shell held a hidden adventure, a story waiting to be unraveled. As the sun began to set, Shelly knew it was time to return home. Though she hadn't found gold, she had discovered something far more valuable: the magic of exploration and the stories hidden within the vast ocean. Back in her cave, Shelly felt a newfound confidence. The world, though scary, was also full of wonder. And she, the shy little seahorse, was ready to discover more stories, one adventure at a time.
In the heart of a bustling city park, nestled amongst towering trees, lived a curious little squirrel named Pip. Unlike his fellow squirrels who chased each other through the branches and hoarded acorns, Pip preferred the quiet company of books. He spent his days perched on a sturdy oak branch, nose buried in a tattered copy of Tales of Distant Lands. One crisp autumn morning, as the leaves began their fiery transformation, a gust of wind snatched Pip's precious book, sending it fluttering down into the unknown depths of the park. Panic surged through Pip. Without his book, he felt lost, adrift in a sea of unfamiliar faces and bustling activity. Mustering his courage, Pip embarked on a quest to retrieve his beloved book. He descended from his safe haven, his tiny claws gripping the bark tightly. The park floor was a chaotic world, bustling with pigeons squabbling over crumbs and children chasing frisbees. Pip scurried through the park, his heart pounding with every rustle of leaves. He searched under benches, behind statues, even braving a brief encounter with a grumpy old bulldog guarding his territory. Finally, exhausted and dejected, Pip spotted a flash of red amongst the fallen leaves. There, nestled in a bed of colorful foliage, lay his book. Relief washed over him as he carefully retrieved his treasure. But as he turned the pages, disappointment struck again. The wind had ripped out several pages, leaving gaps in the stories Pip loved. Tears welled up in Pip's eyes, ready to give up, when a gentle voice startled him. "Why the long face, little one?" Pip looked up to see a wise old owl perched on a nearby branch. He poured his heart out, explaining about the torn book and his love for stories. The owl chuckled softly. "Sometimes, young Pip, the greatest stories are not found in books. Sometimes, they are waiting to be written." The owl gestured at the vibrant park around them. "Look around you. Every creature, every leaf, has a story to tell. You just need to listen." Suddenly, the park came alive with new meaning. Pip saw the stories of the playful squirrels chasing each other, the wisdom in the old owl's eyes, and the courage of a tiny ladybug navigating the vastness of a blade of grass. From that day on, Pip continued his adventures, not just through books, but through the bustling world around him. He befriended other creatures, listened to their stories, and even began to write his own, filling the gaps in his torn book with tales of his own adventures in the heart of the city park. Pip, the once bookish squirrel, became a storyteller, weaving tales of friendship, courage, and the hidden magic in the most ordinary corners of the world.
In a cozy cottage nestled amongst rolling hills lived a grumpy little cloud named Nimbus. Unlike his fluffy friends who drifted across the sky, bringing refreshing rain and playful shadows, Nimbus preferred to sulk in a corner, grumbling about the world below. One particularly gloomy day, as Nimbus grumbled about the sunshine, a gentle breeze nudged him along. "Come on, Nimbus," the breeze whispered, "don't you want to see the world?" Nimbus scoffed. "See what? The same old trees, the same grumpy cows, what's the point?" The breeze chuckled. "But every place holds a story, Nimbus. You just need to look for it." The breeze carried Nimbus over a bustling marketplace. Below, a young girl with bright eyes held up a single, perfect apple, a wide smile on her face. A wave of warmth washed over Nimbus, a feeling he couldn't quite place. Further along, they flew over a field of sunflowers, their faces tilted towards the sun. A lone scarecrow stood guard, a mischievous grin painted on his face. He seemed to be winking at a flock of chattering sparrows. Nimbus felt a tug at his core, a curiosity he hadn't experienced before. The world, it seemed, wasn't as boring as he'd thought. Finally, the breeze deposited him over a sparkling lake. A family of ducks paddled happily, their ducklings quacking excitedly. Suddenly, a strong wind swept across the lake, sending shivers down Nimbus' spine. He instinctively summoned a downpour, shielding the ducks from the harsh wind. Relief washed over the ducks as the wind subsided. A mother duck quacked her thanks, a twinkle in her eyes. Nimbus stared, speechless. He had done something good, something helpful. A feeling of warmth, brighter than any sunbeam, spread through him. As the day wore on, Nimbus found himself drawn to stories unfolding below. He brought gentle showers to thirsty fields, softened the landing of a clumsy baby bird, and even provided a cool cloud castle for a group of sunburnt children to play in. By nightfall, as the world settled into a peaceful slumber, Nimbus no longer felt grumpy. He felt happy, content, and a little bit proud. "See, Nimbus," the breeze whispered, "the world is full of stories, waiting to be a part of." Nimbus smiled, a soft glow radiating from his fluffy form. He might not be the most playful cloud, but he knew now that even a grumpy cloud could bring a little bit of sunshine to the world. In a bustling library nestled amongst towering bookshelves, lived a curious little bookworm named Inky. Unlike his fellow bookworms who burrowed through dusty tomes, munching on forgotten stories, Inky preferred the company of the newest arrivals. He spent his days perched on the edge of a shelf, tail twitching excitedly as fresh books arrived, their pages filled with the promise of unknown adventures. One quiet afternoon, as a stack of glossy travel books arrived, Inky tumbled from his perch, landing headfirst into a vibrant picture of a coral reef. The colors were unlike anything he'd ever seen: swirling blues, fiery oranges, and schools of fish shimmering like jewels. A longing tugged at Inky's heart. He yearned to see these wonders for himself. Suddenly, a booming voice startled him. "Lost, little fellow." Inky looked up to see Barnaby, the oldest book in the library. His leather cover was cracked and worn, but his eyes twinkled with wisdom. Inky poured his heart out, explaining his longing for adventure. Barnaby chuckled, his pages rustling softly. "Ah, the world beyond these shelves," he rumbled. But young Inky, even the greatest adventures begin with a single page. Barnaby gestured to the travel book. "These stories hold the secrets of faraway lands, the whispers of creatures unknown. Read them, little one, and let them ignite your imagination." Inky, hesitant at first, began to devour the stories. He learned about playful dolphins leaping through waves, wise sea turtles carrying stories on their backs, and bioluminescent creatures illuminating the ocean depths. Each page painted a vivid picture in Inky's mind, filling him with a sense of wonder. Days turned into weeks, and Inky devoured every travel book he could find. He learned about bustling jungles teeming with life, silent deserts under starlit skies, and snow-capped mountains reaching towards the clouds. Though he remained a bookworm, his world had expanded far beyond the library walls. One day, a young girl with curious eyes approached the travel section. Inky, perched on the edge of a book, watched as she picked up a book about the ocean. He wiggled his tiny body, hoping to catch her attention. The girl gasped, pointing at Inky. "Look, Mom, a real bookworm." Inky felt a thrill of pride. He may never journey beyond the library shelves, but through the stories he devoured, he had become a tiny bridge, connecting the girl to the wonders of the world. And as the girl delved into the book, Inky knew his thirst for adventure would continue to be quenched, one story at a time.
In a bustling music box shop nestled on a quaint street, lived a tiny, shy clockwork ballerina named Clara. Unlike her fellow ballerinas who twirled and pirouetted at the slightest nudge, Clara preferred the quiet safety of her velvet box. She spent her days listening to the gentle melodies of the other music boxes, her heart yearning to dance, but her gears feeling stiff with fear. One day, a family with a little girl with bright, curious eyes entered the shop. The girl, Lily, was drawn to Clara's box, mesmerized by the delicate ballerina figurine inside. Her parents wound the key, and a soft, tinkling melody filled the air. But Clara, overwhelmed by the sudden light and sound, froze. Her gears locked, and she remained stiffly posed, unable to dance. Disappointment clouded Lily's eyes. Suddenly, a gentle voice startled Clara. It was the wise old music box, a majestic carousel adorned with hand-painted horses. "Don't be afraid, little one," the carousel rumbled, its melody a soothing waltz. "The music is meant to move you, to set your soul free." Clara, emboldened by the carousel's words, took a deep breath. She focused on the music, feeling the rhythm course through her gears. Slowly, tentatively at first, she began to move. Her first steps were clumsy, her movements hesitant. But as the music continued, a sense of confidence bloomed within her. She twirled and leaped, her movements growing more graceful with every note. Lily's eyes widened with delight as she watched Clara dance. A smile spread across her face, brighter than any shop window. When the music finally stopped, Clara stood still, her gears humming with a newfound warmth. Lily clapped excitedly, her eyes sparkling. From that day on, Clara wasn't just a shy ballerina. She was a dancer, a storyteller who brought joy to everyone who heard her music. She learned that courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the willingness to dance anyway, and that the most beautiful stories were often told through movement and music. And as the music box shop filled with laughter and wonder, Clara knew she had finally found her own melody, a melody of courage and joy.
In a bustling flower shop nestled amongst cobbled streets, lived a tiny, curious ladybug named Luna. Unlike her fellow ladybugs who flitted from bloom to bloom, feasting on aphids and basking in the sun, Luna preferred the company of the rarest and most unusual flowers. She spent her days perched on the velvety petals of a black orchid, its inky color and delicate fragrance a source of endless fascination. One day, a delivery arrived at the shop, a strange, bulbous plant with thick, prickly leaves. No one knew its name or origin, but its exotic appearance captivated Luna. As the days passed, the plant began to change. The prickly leaves unfurled, revealing a luminous, purple bud that pulsed with an inner light. One starlit night, the bud finally bloomed. It wasn't a flower, but a miniature galaxy, swirling with stardust and miniature constellations. Luna, awestruck, landed on a tiny, shimmering planet within the bloom. Suddenly, a voice, soft as starlight, startled her. "Welcome, little traveler." Luna looked around, her tiny heart pounding. There, perched on a crescent moon, sat a luminous beetle with wings that shimmered like a nebula. "I am Luna, guardian of this night flower," the beetle explained. "We bloom only once, opening a portal to another world for a brief moment." Excitement bubbled within Luna. Another world? A real adventure? Before she could hesitate, she felt a gentle pull, a swirling sensation, and then, she found herself standing on a field of shimmering grass, bathed in the soft glow of 2 moons. Strange, beautiful creatures roamed the landscape, fluffy, 6-legged rabbits with iridescent fur and birds with wings made of leaves. Luna marveled at this wondrous world, so different from her own. The time, however, was fleeting. As the night flower began to wilt, Luna felt a tug back towards her own reality. With a heavy heart, she said goodbye to the luminous beetle and the otherworldly creatures. Back in the flower shop, Luna landed on a familiar petal of the night flower, now closed and ordinary looking. But Luna knew better. Within its heart, a universe of wonders still resided. From then on, Luna remained curious and adventurous. She continued to explore the shop, befriending the other flowers and learning their stories. But the night flower held a special place in her heart, a reminder of the extraordinary world that awaited those who dared to look beyond the ordinary. And whenever she felt a yearning for adventure, she would perch on the night flower, closing her eyes and letting its memory transport her back to the world of 2 moons and stardust skies.
In a bustling art studio nestled amongst towering trees, lived a tiny, energetic paintbrush named Pip. Unlike his fellow brushes who lined up neatly in a ceramic jar, waiting to be chosen, Pip preferred the wild freedom of the work table. He spent his days leaping from paint tube to paint tube, his bristles leaving vibrant trails across the canvas. One sunny afternoon, a young artist named Maya entered the studio. She picked up a few brushes, her brow furrowed in concentration. Finally, she settled on a thick, sturdy brush, ignoring Pip who wiggled excitedly in her hand. Disappointment flooded Pip. He yearned to be used, to create something beautiful alongside Maya. But alas, he was too small, too unpredictable for her current project. As Maya began painting, Pip watched in fascination. She was creating a landscape, rolling hills bathed in golden sunlight, a gentle river winding its way through the scene. Pip longed to be a part of it. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through the open window, knocking over a pot of bright blue paint. The paint splattered across Maya's nearly finished landscape, leaving a big, ugly blue blob right in the middle. Tears welled up in Maya's eyes. Pip knew he had to do something. With a determined wiggle, he freed himself from the cluttered pot he'd landed in. He landed with a soft plop on the edge of the spilled paint. Taking a deep breath, Pip dipped himself in the blue paint. Then, with a burst of energy, he began to dance across the canvas. He flicked and swirled, his blue paint creating a flock of playful birds soaring across the sky. Maya watched in surprise, then a smile bloomed on her face. Pip continued his painting, adding fluffy white clouds and a bright yellow sun peeking over the hills. The blue blob was transformed into a vibrant sky, completing the landscape. When Pip finally stopped, panting and proud, Maya looked at the transformed painting. Her eyes shone with delight. "Thank you," she whispered, picking up Pip gently. "You helped me create something even more beautiful than I imagined." From that day on, Pip wasn't just a playful brush. He was Maya's partner, a tiny artist with a big heart and a knack for turning mistakes into masterpieces. And together, in their bustling art studio, they filled the world with vibrant colors and stories, proving that even the smallest brush could create the greatest art. In a bustling bakery nestled on a bustling street corner, lived a curious little yeast named Fizz. Unlike his fellow yeasts who patiently bubbled away in warm dough, waiting to rise and bake, Fizz preferred the thrill of unexpected adventures. He spent his days dreaming of soaring through the air, carried on a cloud of flour dust. One breezy morning, a young baker named Leo was preparing a batch of his famous cinnamon rolls. As he kneaded the dough, a sprinkle of flour launched into the air, carrying a tiny speck with it, Fizz. He found himself soaring, weightless and free, above the bustling bakery. The world looked different from up high. He saw golden bread buns nestled in cozy baking trays, rows of shiny cookie cutters, and a giant vat of bubbling honey shimmering like liquid gold. Fizz felt a thrill course through him. This was the adventure he'd always dreamed of. But his joy was short-lived. A gust of wind swept him further, landing him with a plop in a bowl of cold, sugary water. Fear gripped him. He couldn't breathe. Just then, a gentle voice startled him. "Don't worry, little one," it said. A wise old raisin named Reginald, nestled at the bottom of the bowl, looked at Fizz with kind eyes. "You seem a bit lost." Fizz explained his desire for adventure and his fear of being stuck in the bowl. Reginald chuckled, the water rippling around them. "Adventure can be found anywhere, young Fizz," he said. "Even in a bowl of water. Have you ever wondered where this delicious sugar came from?" Intrigued, Fizz shook his tiny head. Reginald, with a twinkle in his eye, began to tell him stories of vast sugar cane fields, bustling with life, and the long journey the sugar took before reaching the bakery. As Reginald spoke, Fizz saw the bakery in a whole new light. It wasn't just a place for baking, it was a hub of stories, each ingredient with a journey and a purpose. Fizz realized even the smallest yeast could play a big role in creating something magical. When Leo finally retrieved the bowl, ready to use the sugar water for his glaze, Fizz felt a newfound excitement. He knew his tiny bubbles would help create the perfect glaze, a secret ingredient to the deliciousness of Leo's cinnamon rolls. From that day on, Fizz remained a curious yeast. He no longer sought adventures that took him away from his job, but reveled in the adventures within. He learned the stories of every ingredient, the magic of transforming simple things into mouth-watering treats. And as the aroma of freshly baked cinnamon rolls filled the bakery, Fizz knew his life, though small, was a delicious adventure, filled with wonder in every bubbling breath.
In a bustling firefly village nestled amongst swaying reeds, lived a curious little firefly named Flicker. Unlike his fellow fireflies who blinked their lights in unison, creating a mesmerizing nighttime spectacle, Flicker preferred the quiet company of the stars. He spent his nights perched on a lily pad, gazing at the constellations, his heart yearning to explore the vastness of the sky. One moonlit night, as Flicker traced the familiar patterns of the stars, a shooting star streaked across the sky, leaving a trail of shimmering dust. This wasn't unusual, but this time the star didn't disappear. It landed with a soft plop in the water near Flicker's lily pad. Curiosity ignited. Flicker flew closer. Floating in the water was a tiny, glowing creature unlike anything he'd ever seen. It had shimmering wings and a body that pulsed with a soft, blue light. "Hello!" Flicker squeaked nervously. The creature blinked its luminescent eyes. "Greetings, friend. I am Luna, a traveler from a distant moon." Flicker was speechless. A real visitor from another world. Luna explained her spaceship had malfunctioned, forcing her emergency landing. She needed a special moonstone to repair it, a stone only found on the highest peak of Mount Firefly, a treacherous mountain shrouded in mist. Flicker, though afraid of heights, knew he had to help. Luna's light was fading, and without the moonstone, she might be stranded forever. Taking a deep breath, he volunteered to guide her. Together, they embarked on a perilous journey. They navigated through fields of tall reeds, dodged grumpy bullfrogs guarding their ponds, and even braved a swarm of hungry mosquitoes. Flicker, using his tiny light to illuminate their path, and Luna, with her stories of faraway galaxies, kept each other going. Finally, after a long and arduous climb, they reached the peak of Mount Firefly. There, nestled amongst the rocks, shimmered a beautiful moonstone, glowing with an ethereal light. As Luna retrieved the stone, relief and gratitude filled Flicker's heart. He had conquered his fear and helped a friend in need. Luna, her light restored, placed a tiny, shimmering pebble in Flicker's hand. "Thank you, brave friend," Luna said. "This is a piece of my moon, a reminder of our adventure." With a final wave, Luna launched into the night sky, her repaired spaceship leaving a trail of starlight. Flicker watched her go, a feeling of wonder and pride warming him from the inside. Back in his village, Flicker was no longer just a stargazer. He was a hero, a tiny firefly who had touched the moon and learned that even the smallest light can illuminate the greatest journeys. And as he blinked his light amongst his fellow fireflies, he knew his story would inspire others to look beyond the reeds and dream of adventures amongst the stars.
In a bustling coral reef teeming with life, lived a shy little seahorse named Shelly. Unlike her fellow seahorses clinging to colorful fans, gossiping about the latest currents, Shelly preferred the quiet safety of a hidden crevice. She spent her days peeking out at the vibrant coral castle, her heart yearning to join the playful games of the other fish. One day, a boisterous school of clownfish zipped past Shelly's crevice. "Come play Marco Polo with us," Shelly, a daring clownfish named Finny, called out. "We're exploring the shipwreck today." Shelly's heart pounded. A shipwreck? It sounded exciting, but the vast open ocean seemed endless and scary. I can't," she mumbled, hiding further back in her crevice. Finny, sensing her fear, swam closer. "There's nothing to be afraid of, Shelly. We'll look after you." Shelly hesitated. The thought of swimming with the other fish was tempting. Finally, taking a deep breath, she agreed. Together, they followed Finny, weaving through schools of shimmering fish and past grumpy pufferfish guarding their homes. Finny pointed out a majestic sea turtle gliding by and a family of octopus playfully changing colors. The ocean was a dazzling kaleidoscope of life. Following a trail of shimmering bubbles left by a friendly hermit crab, they finally reached a clearing. There, on the sandy seabed, lay a half-buried wooden ship, its broken mast reaching towards the surface. Excitement bubbled inside Shelly. They had found the shipwreck, but as the other fish darted towards the ship, a dark shape emerged from its depths, a grumpy shark with sharp teeth and a menacing glare. Panic surged through the fish. They scattered in all directions, except for Shelly, frozen in fear by the crevice of the shipwreck. The shark circled her, its beady eyes glinting. Just then, a flash of inspiration struck Shelly. She puffed out her body, mimicking the poisonous pufferfish they had passed earlier. The shark, wary of the inflated seahorse, hesitated for a moment, then swam away with a dismissive flick of its tail. Relief washed over Shelly. She had used her shyness to her advantage, saving not only herself but also her new friends. As the other fish gathered around her, their eyes wide with admiration, Finny spoke for everyone. "Shelly, you were amazing. You saved us all." Shelly, initially embarrassed, felt a warmth spread through her. Maybe being shy wasn't so bad after all. From that day on, Shelly continued to explore the reef with her newfound friends. Though still a little shy, she knew she had courage within her, and the ocean held endless possibilities, even for the quietest of seahorses.
In a bustling library nestled amongst towering bookshelves, lived a curious little spider named Weaver. Unlike his eight-legged brethren who spun intricate webs in forgotten corners, content with catching the occasional dust bunny, Weaver preferred the company of the most fantastical stories. He spent his days perched on the edge of a leather-bound tome, his tiny silk thread trailing down the page as he devoured tales of brave knights and mythical creatures. One rainy afternoon, a young girl named Maya entered the library, her eyes wide with curiosity. she wandered through the towering shelves, finally stopping in the section filled with fairy tales. Weaver watched, captivated, as she picked up a book with a shimmering cover depicting a magnificent castle on a hill. As Maya flipped through the pages, a gust of wind blew through the open window, snatching a loose page from the book. The page fluttered across the room, landing at the foot of the bookshelf where Weaver hung upside down. The page depicted a beautiful princess trapped in a high tower, guarded by a fire-breathing dragon. Weaver, his heart filled with a sudden urge for adventure, knew what he had to do. He carefully spun a silken thread, anchoring it to the corner of the page. Then, with a deep breath, he rappelled down the thread, landing softly on the edge of the page. He scurried across the paper, his tiny legs moving with surprising agility. Reaching the base of the tower illustration, Weaver saw a tiny inscription, "Only the bravest spider can spin a web strong enough to reach the princess." A thrill of excitement shot through him. This was his chance to be a part of the story, to help the princess. With a determined glint in his many eyes, Weaver began to spin. He used the finest silk he could produce, weaving a shimmering web that stretched towards the top of the tower. It was a long and arduous task, but Weaver persevered. He dodged the ink blots that represented falling rain and navigated around the tiny illustration of a grumpy gargoyle guarding the tower wall. Finally, his web reached the window of the princess's tower. Weaver, exhausted but proud, climbed his silken ladder. He tapped gently on the window pane. The princess, a beautiful illustration with worried eyes, turned around. When she saw the tiny spider, she gasped. But before she could scream, Weaver pointed to the strong web he had woven. The princess's eyes widened with understanding. She climbed down the web, a smile gracing her face. Together, they rappelled down to safety, landing on the last blank page of the book. Maya, who had been watching the entire scene unfold with wide eyes, gasped. "That was amazing," she exclaimed. Weaver, basking in the unexpected praise, beamed. He had not only become part of the story, but he had also shown that even the smallest creature could achieve great things. From that day on, Weaver wasn't just a bookish spider. He was a hero, a tiny adventurer who proved that courage and a bit of silk could weave a path to extraordinary experiences. And as Maya returned the book to its rightful place, a tiny, shimmering web remained on the last page, a reminder of the brave spider who had dared to spin his own tale.
In a bustling market nestled amongst bustling streets, lived a curious little pebble named Pip. Unlike his fellow pebbles who sat stoically in a dusty bucket, waiting to be used for mundane tasks like balancing wobbly tables or holding down stray papers, Pip preferred the thrill of the unknown. He spent his days dreaming of rolling down cobbled streets and exploring the world beyond the market stalls. One sunny morning, a young girl named Anya knelt amongst the bucket of pebbles. She picked up Pip, turning him over in her hand. Pip braced himself, expecting to be used as a doorstop or a paperweight. Instead, Anya grinned and said, "You're just the perfect size for skipping." Before Pip knew it, she sent him flying through the air. He tumbled and spun, the wind whistling past his smooth surface. He bounced off a colorful awning, then a pile of fluffy fruit, before landing with a soft plop in a basket overflowing with vibrant flowers. Anya ran over, her eyes sparkling. "Wow, Pip, you're a natural." Pip, exhilarated by his unexpected flight, felt a thrill course through him. He spent the rest of the morning skipping across the market square, bouncing off friendly knees, and even landing in a basket of juicy apples for a refreshing snack. He saw the world from a whole new perspective. The intricate patterns on the soles of shoes, the bustling legs of shoppers, and the dazzling colors of exotic fruits. Pip realized the market wasn't just a place to be used. It was a vibrant tapestry of life, bustling with stories and adventures. By the end of the day, Pip was dusty and a little scratched, but his heart brimmed with excitement. Anya gently picked him up and placed him back in the bucket with his fellow pebbles. "That was fun, Pip," she said with a wink. "But remember, even the smallest pebble can have a grand adventure." From that day on, Pip wasn't just an ordinary pebble. He was Anya's skipping champion, a tiny explorer who had learned that courage and a bit of trust could propel you into extraordinary experiences. And whenever a new customer approached the bucket, Pip would wiggle with anticipation, ready for his next adventure, waiting for someone to see him not just as a pebble, but as a tiny heart yearning to skip across the world.
In a bustling clock tower nestled amongst towering buildings, lived a curious little gear named Cognito. Unlike his fellow gears who meshed seamlessly, working together to keep the clock ticking perfectly, Cognito preferred the quiet solitude of the clock face, gazing out at the ever-changing city below. He spent his days dreaming of faraway lands, his cog teeth itching to explore the world beyond the clock tower's stony embrace. One blustery afternoon, a powerful wind howled through the city, shaking the clock tower with an unexpected ferocity. A loose brick from the parapet came dislodged, tumbling down and knocking Cognito right out of his place. He landed with a clatter on the cobblestone street below, feeling a pang of fear and a strange sense of liberation. He was free. But free for what? Cognito, a tiny gear with no purpose outside the clockwork heart of the tower, felt utterly lost. Just then, a friendly voice startled him. "Well, hello there, little fella. Lost your way?" Cognito looked up to see a wise old street lamp named Lumen. His aged metal gleamed in the fading light, and his warm glow offered a sense of comfort. Cognito explained his predicament, his voice trembling slightly. Lumen chuckled, a soft creaking sound. "Don't you worry, little gear," he said. "The world may seem vast, but even the smallest cog can play a big role." Lumen explained how the city relied on countless small things working together, streetlights guiding people at night, gears turning in traffic signals, even the tiny hinges on shop doors. Cognito listened intently, a spark of hope igniting within him. Suddenly, a loud clanging noise echoed through the street. A delivery truck had broken down, its gears grinding to a halt in the middle of the road, causing a traffic jam. Cognito, remembering his place in the clockwork symphony, knew exactly what to do. With a determined whir, he scurried towards the truck. He was small, but surprisingly strong. Inch by inch, he pushed and shoved a dislodged gear back into place. Finally, with a satisfying click, the truck lurched back to life, the traffic jam dissolving like morning mist. The relieved drivers cheered, showering Cognito with grateful honks and waves. A newfound warmth filled Cognito. He may not have been part of the grand clock tower anymore, but he had found his purpose to be a tiny helper, a fixer of everyday mishaps, a reminder that even the smallest cog could keep the world running smoothly. From that day on, Cognito roamed the city streets, a self-proclaimed gear guardian. He wasn't lost anymore. He was a tiny adventurer, his cog teeth clicking with purpose, his heart brimming with the joy of helping others. And whenever the clock tower chimed, a faint echo seemed to reach him, a reminder of his past and a message of encouragement. Even the smallest gear could make a big difference, one click at a time. In a bustling burrow nestled beneath a sprawling oak tree, lived a curious little acorn named Acoria. Unlike her fellow acorns who dreamt of becoming mighty oak trees, casting shade and providing shelter, Acoria dreamt of exploring the world beyond the burrow's dark tunnels. She spent her days perched on a cozy bed of moss, gazing up at the sliver of sky visible at the burrow's entrance, her heart yearning for sunshine and adventure. One blustery autumn day, a strong gust of wind swept through the burrow, dislodging Acoria from her bed. She tumbled head over heels through the tunnel and emerged, blinking, into the bright sunlight. The world was a dazzling spectacle. Golden leaves danced in the wind, a vibrant tapestry stretching as far as Acoria could see. Tiny dewdrops sparkled like diamonds on spiderwebs, and a chorus of birdsong filled the air. Acoria, overwhelmed by the beauty and vastness of it all, felt a thrill course through her. Suddenly, a shadow loomed over her. A grumpy crow, with beady eyes and a sharp beak, swooped down. Acoria squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for the worst. But instead of feeling sharp talons, she felt herself being gently lifted. She opened her eyes to see a wise old squirrel named Hazel perched on a branch, holding her in her tiny paws. Hazel chuckled, her bushy tail twitching. "Lost your way, little one?" Acoria explained her desire for adventure and her fear of the crow. Hazel smiled warmly. "The world can be a scary place, little one," she said. "But even the smallest acorn can have a grand adventure, as long as they have a plan." Hazel explained the importance of finding a safe place to grow, a place where she could sprout roots and weather the storms. She pointed out a sunny spot near a babbling brook, sheltered by a flowering bush. Acoria, emboldened by Hazel's words, thanked her new friend and rolled towards the stream. It was a long and arduous journey, filled with obstacles like pebbles and fallen leaves, but Acoria persevered. Finally, she reached her chosen spot. Nestling herself amidst the soft soil, Acoria felt a deep sense of accomplishment. She may not have soared through the sky like the crow, but she had found her own adventure, her own place in the vast world. As the seasons turned, Acoria grew into a sturdy young sapling, her leaves reaching towards the sun. She provided shade for playful rabbits, her branches became a playground for a family of squirrels, and her roots helped hold the soil, preventing erosion near the stream. One day, a familiar shadow landed on a branch above. It was Hazel. She looked down at Acoria, her eyes twinkling. "See, little acorn," she said. "You found your adventure, and in doing so, you became a home for others." Acoria, her leaves rustling in the breeze, felt a sense of pride. She may not have become a giant oak like she once imagined, but she had become something more, a symbol of perseverance, a provider of shelter, and a reminder that even the smallest acorn could make a big difference in the world. In a bustling coral reef teeming with life, lived a curious little hermit crab named Sheldon. Unlike his fellow hermits who scurried about in borrowed shells, constantly upgrading for size and status, Sheldon preferred the comfort of his old, chipped conch shell. It may not have been fancy, but it held memories of his adventurous past and fit him perfectly. He spent his days peeking out from his shell, his eyes wide with wonder as schools of colorful fish darted around him. One sunny afternoon, a frantic commotion erupted near a cluster of swaying sea anemones. A young clownfish named Finny was trapped. A discarded fishing net, entangled in the anemone's tentacles, held him fast. Panic surged through the reef. Sheldon, despite his small size and lack of a fancy shell, knew he had to do something. He remembered stories his grandmother, a seasoned explorer with a shell adorned with barnacles like trophies, used to tell about using her strong claws to snip nets. Taking a deep breath, Sheldon scuttled towards the net. The other hermits, with their grander shells, scoffed. "What's a tiny crab like you going to do?" they sneered. Ignoring them, Sheldon reached the net. It was thick and strong, but he wasn't going to give up. With all his might, he snipped and clawed at the net, his tiny claws surprisingly strong. Slowly, but surely, a tier began to form. The other hermits, seeing his determination, joined in. One by one, they pinched and pulled at the net, their combined efforts weakening its hold. Finally, with a satisfying rip, the net tore free, releasing Finny in a burst of bubbles. Finny, overwhelmed with relief, darted towards Sheldon. "Thank you," he exclaimed. "You saved my life." Sheldon beamed. He may not have had the biggest or fanciest shell, but his courage and determination had proven that even the smallest creature could make a big difference. From that day on, Sheldon wasn't just a little hermit crab with an old shell. He was a hero, a symbol of bravery, and an inspiration to the other hermits. He showed them that true strength wasn't about the size or ornateness of your shell, but about the courage you carried within. And whenever a new net threatened the reef, Sheldon and his newfound team of brave hermits, with their mismatched shells held high, were always there to snip and snip, reminding everyone that even the smallest amongst them could be the greatest heroes.
In a bustling metropolis nestled between towering skyscrapers, lived a curious little firefly named Flicker. Unlike his fellow fireflies who illuminated parks with their synchronized twinkles, Flicker preferred the quiet glow of a forgotten bookstore window. He spent his days perched on the spine of a well-worn atlas, its pages filled with maps of fantastical lands, his tiny heart yearning for adventure beyond the city's neon lights. One rainy evening, a young girl named Lily wandered into the bookstore, her eyes wide with curiosity. She browsed the shelves, finally stopping at the travel section. Flicker watched, captivated, as she picked up a book with a picture of a lush rainforest teeming with exotic creatures. As Lily flipped through the pages, a gust of wind howled through the open door, snatching a loose page from the book. The page fluttered across the room, landing at the foot of the towering bookshelf where Flicker clung. The page depicted a majestic waterfall cascading down a moss-covered cliff, surrounded by vibrant flowers and colorful birds. Flicker, his tiny heart pounding with a sudden urge to explore, knew what he had to do. He carefully focused his light, aiming a bright beam at the corner of the page. The paper, surprisingly sturdy, began to fold along the creases, transforming into a tiny origami boat. With a final flick of his light, Flicker launched the boat onto a puddle of rainwater near the window. The boat, propelled by the wind and Flicker's glowing light, sailed out the window, carried on a journey towards the unknown. Flicker watched, his tiny body pulsing with excitement, as the boat drifted into the city's labyrinthine streets, past honking taxis and bustling crowds. The journey was perilous. The boat bobbed precariously over overflowing gutters, narrowly avoided being squashed by a passing shoe, and even took a thrilling ride down a storm drain. But Flicker's light, unwavering and bright, guided the boat onward. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the boat emerged from a storm drain into a hidden oasis, a rooftop garden tucked away amidst the skyscrapers. The air buzzed with the sound of crickets, and fireflies, much larger than Flicker, blinked their greetings. Lily, who had been following the boat's journey through the city with a telescope from her window, gasped in delight. She climbed to the rooftop, her eyes sparkling with wonder. Flicker, nestled safely on a rose petal, watched as Lily knelt beside the origami boat. Picking it up gently, she looked around at the rooftop garden, a smile blooming on her face. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice filled with awe. "You showed me a hidden piece of magic in my own city." Flicker, his tiny light pulsing with pride, knew he may not have reached a faraway rainforest, but he had ignited a spark of adventure in Lily's heart. And as Lily returned the book to its shelf, a tiny origami boat remained tucked between its pages, a reminder of the night a little firefly's light led the way to an extraordinary adventure, right in the heart of the city.
In a bustling bakery nestled amongst cobblestone streets, lived a curious little crumb named Crumpkin. Unlike his fellow crumbs who dreamt of becoming fluffy pastries or decadent cookies, Crumpkin preferred the thrill of the unexpected journey. He spent his days perched on the edge of a giant flour sack, his tiny bready body tingling with the urge to explore the world beyond the mixing bowls. One sunny morning, a young baker named Leo was preparing a batch of his famous cinnamon rolls. As he kneaded the dough, a sprinkle of flour launched into the air, carrying Crumpkin with it. He found himself soaring, weightless and free, above the bustling bakery. The world looked different from up high. He saw golden bread loaves nestled in cozy baking trays, rows of shiny cookie cutters, and a giant vat of bubbling honey shimmering like liquid gold. Crumpkin, his bready heart swelling with excitement, felt a thrill course through him. But his joy was short-lived. A gust of wind swept through the open window, carrying Crumpkin towards a gaping hole in a flour sack. He tumbled through the hole, landing with a soft plop in a basket overflowing with fresh berries. Panic gripped him. He couldn't move. Juicy blueberries and plump raspberries held him captive. Just then, a gentle voice startled him. "Don't worry, little one," it chirped. A wise old raisin named Reginald, nestled at the bottom of the basket, looked at Crumpkin with kind eyes. "You seem a bit lost." Crumpkin explained his desire for adventure and his fear of being stuck in the basket. Reginald chuckled, a sound like rustling leaves. "Adventure can be found anywhere, little Crumpkin," he said. "Even in a basket of berries. Have you ever wondered where these delicious fruits came from?" Intrigued, Crumpkin shook his tiny head. Reginald, with a twinkle in his eye, began to tell him stories of vast berry fields, bustling with life, and the long journey the berries took before reaching the bakery. As Reginald spoke, Crumpkin saw the bakery in a whole new light. It wasn't just a place for baking, it was a hub of stories, each ingredient with a journey and a purpose. Crumpkin realized even the smallest crumb could play a big role in creating something magical. When Leo finally retrieved the basket, ready to use the berries for his pies, Crumpkin felt a newfound excitement. He knew his tiny presence would help create delicious treats, a sweet surprise for everyone who bit into a bakery creation. From that day on, Crumpkin remained a curious crumb. He no longer sought adventures that took him away from his destiny, but reveled in the adventures within. He learned the stories of every ingredient, the magic of transforming simple things into mouth-watering treats. And as the aroma of freshly baked pies filled the bakery, Crumpkin knew his life, though small, was a delicious adventure, filled with wonder in every soft, bready crumb. In a bustling library nestled amongst towering bookshelves, lived a curious little bookmark named Marky. Unlike his fellow bookmarks holding their places dutifully, content with keeping track of unfinished stories, Marky preferred the thrill of hidden adventures. He spent his days peeking out from the edge of a leather-bound travelogue, dreaming of faraway lands and forgotten ruins. One rainy afternoon, a young boy named Ethan wandered into the library, his eyes wide with curiosity. He browsed the shelves, finally stopping in the section filled with ancient history books. Marky watched, captivated, as Ethan picked up a book depicting a magnificent temple hidden deep within a dense jungle. As Ethan flipped through the pages, a gust of wind howled through the open window, snatching a loose photograph from the book. The photograph fluttered across the room, landing at the foot of the towering bookshelf where Marky clung. The photograph depicted a crumbling stone archway, its moss-covered surface hinting at an ancient civilization. Marky, his tiny heart pounding with a sudden urge to explore, knew what he had to do. With a determined wiggle, he slipped free from his leather sheath. Using his silky ribbon as a makeshift rope, he carefully climbed down the bookshelf. He then scurried towards the photograph, his little tassel trailing behind him. Reaching the photo, Marky noticed a tiny inscription, "Only the bravest bookmark can guide the way to the hidden temple." A thrill of excitement shot through him. This was his chance to be a part of the adventure, to lead Ethan to a place lost to time. With a determined flutter, Marky took off, his ribbon trailing behind him like a tiny kite tail. He led Ethan on a thrilling journey through the library. They navigated past towering stacks of books, climbed over piles of forgotten scrolls, and even dodged a grumpy librarian vacuuming the aisles. Marky, using his knowledge gleaned from the travelogue, steered Ethan towards the ancient history section, finally stopping in front of a dusty book filled with detailed maps of forgotten civilizations. Ethan, following Marky's lead, gasped in surprise. The map on the open page mirrored the photograph exactly. With trembling hands, he traced the path leading to the hidden temple. Ethan looked down at Marky, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Marky. You led me on an amazing adventure." Marky, basking in the unexpected praise, fluttered his little tassel proudly. He wasn't just a bookmark anymore. He was a tiny explorer, a guide to hidden knowledge, and a testament to the fact that even the smallest objects could hold the greatest adventures. From that day on, Marky wasn't just a bookmark for keeping track of pages. He was a promise of adventure, a tiny explorer waiting to lead curious minds to hidden worlds within the library walls. And whenever a new reader entered the library, Marky would wiggle with anticipation, ready to guide them not just through stories, but to the extraordinary adventures that awaited them within the vast world of knowledge.
In a bustling orchestra pit nestled beneath a grand concert hall, lived a curious little violin string named Treble. Unlike his fellow strings who vibrated in perfect harmony, creating a melody that soared through the hall, Treble preferred the quiet hum of a tuning fork. He spent his days dreaming of composing his own music, a vibrant symphony of unexpected notes, rather than simply following the score. One starlit evening, a young violinist named Maya practiced for her upcoming performance. Her bow danced across the strings, but her brow furrowed in frustration. The music sounded flat, lacking the usual spark that filled the concert hall. Treble, his tiny string vibrating with concern, felt a surge of inspiration. He knew this music needed a touch of his unique spirit. As Maya drew the bow back for another stroke, Treble took a daring leap. With a controlled thrum, he vibrated in a way that wasn't in the score. A discordant note, unexpected and sharp, pierced the practiced melody. Maya flinched, startled by the sudden change. But then, something surprising happened. Instead of dismissing the note, Maya paused. She listened, her eyes widening with curiosity. The unexpected note, like a splash of color on a blank canvas, seemed to spark a new idea. A smile bloomed on her face. With a newfound confidence, she began to play again. This time, however, her fingers danced a different melody, incorporating Treble's unexpected note as a starting point. The music transformed, it became bolder, more playful, filled with a vibrant energy that resonated through the empty hall. Treble vibrated with excitement as Maya continued to play. Together, they created a masterpiece, a symphony that weaved the familiar melodies with unexpected twists and turns, a testament to the beauty of collaboration and the power of taking a chance. The following evening, the concert hall buzzed with anticipation. As Maya took the stage, a hush fell over the audience. Her bow danced across the strings, and the music filled the hall. The audience was captivated. The unexpected notes, once a discord, now added a layer of depth and intrigue. The music resonated with a unique spirit, a testament to a brave violinist and a curious little string who dared to challenge the ordinary. After the final note faded, the audience erupted in thunderous applause. Maya, her face beaming, took a bow. Then, she looked down at her violin, a silent thank you directed towards the tiny string that had dared to dream a little bigger. From that day on, Treble wasn't just a string following a score. He was a collaborator, a tiny voice that challenged convention and inspired beautiful chaos. And whenever Maya held her violin, she knew that even the smallest string could spark a symphony of extraordinary music.
In a bustling art studio nestled amongst cobbled lanes, lived a curious little paintbrush named Pip. Unlike his fellow brushes who lined up neatly in a ceramic pot, content with being used for specific colors, Pip preferred the thrill of unexpected mixtures. He spent his days dreaming of creating his own masterpiece, a canvas bursting with colors beyond the artist's palette, rather than simply following instructions. One sunny morning, a young artist named Chloe arrived at her studio, her eyes filled with inspiration. She planned to paint a portrait of the vibrant flower market that unfolded every morning just outside her window. She squeezed dollops of red, yellow, and blue paint onto her palette, ready to begin. Pip, nestled amongst a group of red brushes, vibrated with excitement. The flower market was a riot of colors, and he longed to capture its essence on the canvas. But as Chloe dipped a red brush into the paint, Pip knew something was missing. With a determined wiggle, he squirted a tiny bit of blue paint onto the red blob on Chloe's palette. The red instantly transformed into a rich, majestic purple, a color that perfectly captured the shade of a blooming wisteria vine Pip had seen at the market. Chloe, surprised by the unexpected addition, paused for a moment. Then, a curious glint appeared in her eyes. Instead of wiping away the mistake, she picked up the purple brush and dipped it into the canvas, painting the wisteria vine climbing the side of a quaint flower stall. The tiny splash of purple sparked a new idea in Chloe. She continued to experiment, mixing colors on her palette, inspired by Pip's daring combination. Soon, her canvas bloomed with a dazzling array of hues: turquoise for the shimmering dewdrops on rose petals, a vibrant orange for the marigold garlands, and a soft lavender for the hazy morning sky. Pip vibrated with excitement as Chloe brought the flower market to life on the canvas. It was a masterpiece unlike any other, bursting with a kaleidoscope of colors that captured the essence of the bustling market in a way that the traditional red, yellow, and blue never could. When the painting was complete, Chloe stepped back, a wide smile on her face. It was more than just a portrait, it was an explosion of life and energy, a testament to the beauty of experimentation and the magic that unfolds when unexpected creativity takes hold. From that day on, Pip wasn't just a brush for a single color. He was a muse, a tiny artist who challenged the ordinary and inspired artistic alchemy. And whenever Chloe held her brush, she knew that even the smallest nudge of color could spark a masterpiece on the canvas.
In a bustling repair shop nestled amongst whirring machines and clanging tools, lived a curious little screw named Rusty. Unlike his fellow screws, all perfectly polished and gleaming, content with holding furniture sturdily together, Rusty preferred the thrill of forgotten inventions. He spent his days nestled in a dusty toolbox, dreaming of becoming part of a contraption that would soar through the skies or dive into the depths of the ocean, rather than simply holding a chair leg in place. One rainy afternoon, a young inventor named Zoe brought in a peculiar contraption, a rickety birdhouse with a tangled mess of wires and mismatched gears. It looked like it belonged more in a scrapyard than perched on a tree branch. Rusty, his rusty head gleaming with excitement, saw potential in the jumbled mess. He knew this birdhouse needed a touch of his unique perspective. As Zoe tinkered with the wires, a loose screw rattled out, falling into the toolbox. It wasn't Rusty, but his identical twin, gleaming and polished. Zoe, with a sigh, picked up the shiny screw and began to screw it into the birdhouse. But before she could finish, Rusty, with a daring wiggle, leaped out of the toolbox and landed right next to his twin on the workbench. Zoe stared at the two identical screws, a puzzled frown creasing her forehead. Then, a mischievous glint appeared in her eyes. Instead of replacing the loose screw, she placed Rusty right next to his shiny twin, screwing them both into the birdhouse side by side. The effect was unexpected. As Zoe fiddled with the wires, the two screws, with their different textures, created a strange electrical current. The birdhouse whirred to life, its roof flapping open and closed like a tiny bird taking flight. Zoe gasped in surprise. She had intended to build a simple birdhouse, but Rusty's unexpected addition had sparked an entirely new invention, a bird feeder that automatically scattered seeds whenever a real bird landed on the perch. From that day on, Rusty wasn't just a screw for holding things together. He was an innovator, a tiny spark of inspiration who challenged convention and led to revolutionary creations. And whenever Zoe tinkered with her tools, she knew that even the smallest, rustiest screw could hold the key to unlocking extraordinary inventions.
In a bustling coral reef teeming with colorful life, lived a curious little seashell named Shelly. Unlike her fellow seashells, content to be beautiful homes for hermit crabs or simply rest on the sandy seabed, Shelly dreamt of creating something magnificent. She spent her days collecting bits of coral, shimmering pebbles, and pearly fragments, yearning to craft a masterpiece that would rival the beauty of the reef itself. One sunny morning, a grumpy grouper named Grouchbeard lumbered past Shelly's collection. "What's all this junk for?" he grumbled, his voice echoing through the water. "Seashells are for hiding in, not playing with." Shelly, her tiny shell feeling a twinge of hurt, explained her dream of creating a work of art. Grouchbeard scoffed. "Art? In the ocean? Ridiculous. The only beauty here is the natural kind." Dejected but not defeated, Shelly continued collecting her treasures. One day, a playful school of clownfish led by Finny, the bravest of them all, darted towards Shelly. "What are you making, Shelly?" Finny asked, his eyes sparkling with curiosity. Shelly, hesitant at first, shared her dream. The clownfish, unlike Grouchbeard, were enthusiastic. They helped Shelly gather more colorful pebbles and shiny seashells, their tiny fins flitting about with excitement. Finally, after days of work, Shelly's creation was complete. It wasn't a grand statue or a towering structure, but a mosaic, a dazzling collage of colors and textures that depicted the vibrant life of the reef. Schools of fish swam across its surface, playful dolphins leaped through its center, and even Grouchbeard's grumpy face, reimagined in shimmering pearls, found a place on the edge. As Shelly presented her masterpiece, a hush fell over the reef. Even Grouchbeard stared in awe, a flicker of something other than gruffness in his eyes. The mosaic shimmered in the sunlight, reflecting the beauty of the reef in a way none had seen before. From that day on, Shelly wasn't just a pretty seashell. She was an artist, a creator who showed everyone that even the smallest piece could be part of something extraordinary. Her mosaic became a landmark, a reminder that true beauty could be found not just in nature, but in the creativity that blossomed within it. And whenever a new seashell felt a spark of inspiration, they knew they could look to Shelly, the little shell who dared to dream and create a masterpiece in the heart of the ocean. In a bustling post office nestled amongst towering skyscrapers, lived a curious little stamp named Sticklisha. Unlike her fellow stamps, content with adhering to envelopes and traveling the world on postcards, Sticklisha dreamt of faraway lands and forgotten stories. She spent her days nestled in a dusty roll, her sticky surface yearning to be used on something more exciting than a grocery list. One rainy afternoon, a young boy named Alex wandered into the post office with his grandpa. Alex's eyes sparkled with curiosity as he gazed at the colorful stamps from all over the world. He pointed at a magnificent roll filled with images of majestic dragons and mythical creatures. Sticklisha, nestled amongst a pile of generic mail stamps, vibrated with excitement. Those were the kinds of adventures she craved. As Alex's grandpa reached for a regular stamp, Sticklisha, with a daring wiggle, detached herself from the roll and landed right next to the generic one. Alex gasped, his eyes wide with wonder. "Grandpa, look," he exclaimed, pointing at Sticklisha. "This stamp has a dragon on it." His grandpa chuckled. "Well, that's certainly unusual," he said, picking up both stamps. He examined Sticklisha closely. "This one seems a bit special." Intrigued by the unique stamp, Alex's grandpa decided to use it on a letter he was writing to his pen pal in a faraway land. He carefully placed Sticklisha on the envelope, alongside the regular stamp, and sent the letter on its way. Sticklisha's journey was unlike any other. The envelope, adorned with a majestic dragon stamp, caught the attention of postal workers around the world. They marveled at the unusual stamp, whispering tales of mythical creatures and faraway lands. The letter, with Sticklisha as its prized possession, traveled across mountains, over oceans, and through bustling cities. Finally, it reached its destination, a quaint village nestled amongst rolling hills. Alex's pen pal, a girl named Mai, was equally captivated by Sticklisha. She had never seen such a stamp before. Inspired by the dragon on the stamp, Mai began writing stories about brave adventurers and mythical creatures. Her stories, filled with wonder and imagination, spread through her village, sparking a love for storytelling in everyone who heard them. From that day on, Sticklisha wasn't just a stamp for sticking to envelopes. She was a muse, a tiny spark of inspiration that traveled the world, igniting creativity and reminding everyone of the power of stories to transport us to faraway lands, even if just through our imaginations. And whenever a new sheet of stamps arrived at the post office, the postal workers would whisper tales of the legendary dragon stamp, a reminder that even the smallest stamp could hold the key to unlocking extraordinary adventures. In a bustling classroom nestled amongst towering bookshelves, lived a curious little pencil named Pencilton. Unlike his fellow pencils, content was staying neatly sharpened, writing legible sentences, and being dutifully stored in pencil cases. Pencilton dreamt of creating fantastical worlds. He spent his days nestled at the bottom of a cluttered desk, his graphite tip yearning to draw not just letters and numbers, but fantastical creatures and lands beyond imagination. One sunny morning, a young girl named Ishan arrived at school, her eyes filled with a spark of creativity. He pulled out his pencil case, his fingers hovering over the different pencils inside. Pencilton, with a determined wiggle, rolled out of the case and landed right in front of Ishan. Ishan blinked, surprised to see the loose pencil. But something about Pencilton, perhaps the glint of his graphite tip, drew Ishan in. He picked up Pencilton, a curious smile playing on his lips. "Maybe you'll be the one to help me today," Ishan murmured, settling into his seat. As Ishan opened his notebook, Pencilton felt a thrill course through his wooden body. This was his chance to create something extraordinary. As Ishan began to draw, Pencilton danced across the page, his tip leaving behind not just lines, but a fantastical world. A towering city built on the back of a giant turtle, its houses shaped like seashells and its streets patrolled by friendly dolphins. Ishan, his own imagination ignited by Pencilton's lead, continued to draw. He added flying cars soaring through the sky, trees made of candy, and a friendly-looking sun with a toothy grin. The more Ishan drew, the more details emerged in their fantastical world, a testament to the power of collaboration. By the end of class, Ishan's notebook held a masterpiece, a world unlike any other, bursting with color and creativity. Ishan beamed with pride, a newfound confidence sparkling in his eyes. From that day on, Pencilton wasn't just a pencil for writing words. He was a key to imagination, a tiny artist who, when paired with a curious mind, could unlock fantastical worlds on paper. And whenever Ishan opened his notebook, he knew that even the smallest pencil could hold the power to create extraordinary adventures. All it needed was a spark of creativity to set it free.
In a bustling bakery nestled amongst cobblestone streets, lived a curious little crumb named Crumpkin. Unlike his fellow crumbs who dreamt of becoming fluffy pastries or decadent cookies, Crumpkin preferred the thrill of the unexpected journey. He spent his days perched on the edge of a giant flour sack, his tiny bready body tingling with the urge to explore the world beyond the mixing bowls. One sunny morning, a young apprentice baker named Maya was preparing a batch of her grandmother's famous cinnamon rolls. As she kneaded the dough, a sprinkle of flour launched into the air, carrying Crumpkin with it. He found himself soaring, weightless and free, above the bustling bakery. The world looked different from up high. He saw golden bread loaves nestled in cozy baking trays, rows of shiny cookie cutters, and a giant vat of bubbling honey shimmering like liquid gold. Crumpkin, his bready heart swelling with excitement, felt a thrill course through him. But his joy was short-lived. A gust of wind swept through the open window, snatching Crumpkin towards a gaping hole in a flour sack. He tumbled through the hole, landing with a soft plop in a basket overflowing with fresh vegetables. Panic gripped him. He couldn't move. Juicy tomatoes and plump carrots held him captive. Just then, a gentle voice startled him. "Don't worry, little one," it chirped. A wise old raisin named Reginald, nestled at the bottom of the basket, looked at Crumpkin with kind eyes. "You seem a bit lost." Crumpkin explained his desire for adventure and his fear of being stuck in the basket. Reginald chuckled, a sound like rustling leaves. "Adventure can be found anywhere, little Crumpkin," he said. "Even in a basket of vegetables. Have you ever wondered where these delicious delights come from?" Intrigued, Crumpkin shook his tiny head. Reginald, with a twinkle in his eye, began to tell him stories of vast vegetable gardens, teeming with life, and the long journey the vegetables took before reaching the bakery. As Reginald spoke, Crumpkin saw the bakery in a whole new light. It wasn't just a place for baking, it was a hub of stories, each ingredient with a journey and a purpose. Crumpkin realized even the smallest crumb could play a big role in creating something magical. When Maya finally retrieved the basket, ready to use the vegetables for her savory pies, Crumpkin felt a newfound excitement. He knew his tiny presence would help create delicious treats, a delightful surprise for everyone who bit into a savory bakery creation. From that day on, Crumpkin remained a curious crumb. He no longer sought adventures that took him away from his destiny, but reveled in the adventures within. He learned the stories of every ingredient, the magic of transforming simple vegetables into mouth-watering dishes. And as the aroma of freshly baked pies filled the bakery, Crumpkin knew his life, though small, was a delicious adventure filled with wonder in every soft, bready crumb.
I apologize for the repetition in the story about Crumpkin. Here's a new story for you. In a bustling metropolis nestled between towering skyscrapers, lived a curious little raindrop named Raindrop. Unlike his fellow raindrops who dreamt of splashing into puddles or cascading down drain pipes, Raindrop preferred the thrill of the unexpected journey. He spent his days clinging to a colossal storm cloud, his tiny droplet body yearning to explore the world beyond the city's concrete jungle. One stormy afternoon, a dark cloud, pregnant with rain, rumbled over the city. Raindrop vibrated with excitement as the wind howled and lightning danced across the sky. Finally, the moment arrived. The cloud unleashed a torrent of rain, and Raindrop found himself plummeting towards the earth. The world blurred as he fell. He braced himself for a crash landing, but instead, a gentle gust of wind carried him sideways. He landed with a soft plop on a vibrant green leaf, clinging to a sprawling oak tree in a hidden rooftop garden. Raindrop, surprised and delighted, found himself in a world unlike any he had ever seen. Busy bees buzzed amongst colorful flowers, butterflies fluttered with delicate wings, and tiny blades of grass tickled his droplet body. Suddenly, a small voice startled him. "Hello there, little one," chirped a wise old ladybug named Luna, her red shell gleaming in the sunlight. "Lost, are we?" Raindrop explained his desire for adventure and his surprise at landing in this hidden paradise. Luna chuckled, her tiny legs flitting across the leaf. "Adventure can be found anywhere, even in the heart of a city," she said. "This rooftop garden, nurtured by rainwater like yourself, is a secret haven for many creatures." Raindrop spent the rest of the afternoon exploring the rooftop garden. He raced tiny ants on blades of grass, helped a thirsty spider fill its web with glistening dewdrops, and marveled at the vibrant colors of blooming wildflowers. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the rooftop, Raindrop knew it was time to return to the cloud. He said his goodbyes to Luna and the other rooftop dwellers, feeling a newfound appreciation for the journey a raindrop could take. The wind carried him back up into the sky, where he rejoined the cloud. But Raindrop was no longer just a raindrop. He was a tiny explorer, carrying with him the stories and wonders of the hidden rooftop garden. The next time raindrop fell from the sky, he wouldn't just be watering the concrete jungle below. He would be searching for another secret oasis, another unexpected adventure waiting to be discovered in the heart of the bustling city.
In a bustling library nestled amongst towering bookshelves, lived a curious little bookmark named Inky. Unlike his fellow bookmarks holding their places dutifully, content with keeping track of unfinished stories, Inky preferred the thrill of whispered secrets and hidden knowledge. He spent his days tucked away in a dusty leather-bound tome filled with forgotten myths, his silky tassel yearning to unlock the mysteries within the library walls. One rainy afternoon, the young girl named Clara wandered into the library, her eyes wide with curiosity. She browsed the shelves, finally stopping in the section filled with ancient languages. Inky watched, mesmerized, as Clara traced her finger over strange symbols on a weathered papyrus scroll. As Clara turned the page, a gust of wind swept through the open window, snatching a loose feather from a nearby quill. The feather fluttered across the room, landing right next to Inky on the open book. The feather was no ordinary feather. It was a raven feather, imbued with a faint, iridescent glow. Inky, his tassel vibrating with excitement, knew this was no coincidence. This was a sign. With a determined wiggle, he slipped free from his leather sheath. Using his silky tassel as a grappling hook, he inched towards the raven feather. Reaching it, he noticed a tiny inscription etched on the feather's shaft: "Follow the whispers, unlock the forgotten." A thrill of anticipation shot through Inky. This was his chance to be a part of something bigger, to guide Clara on a journey of forgotten knowledge. As Clara flipped through the pages, Inky, using the feather as a marker, navigated her towards specific passages. He led her on a thrilling chase through the library. They deciphered cryptic symbols on ancient maps, navigated through dusty archives filled with forgotten lore, and even snuck past a grumpy librarian vacuuming the aisles. Inky, using his knowledge gleaned from the ancient book, steered Clara towards a hidden alcove behind a towering bookshelf. There, nestled in the shadows, lay a dusty chest overflowing with scrolls and artifacts. Clara gasped, her eyes wide with wonder. The inscription on the feather had led them to a treasure trove of forgotten knowledge. Clara, her face beaming with gratitude, looked down at Inky. "Thank you, Inky. You led me on an amazing adventure." Inky, basking in the unexpected praise, fluttered his little tassel proudly. He wasn't just a bookmark anymore. He was a tiny scholar, a whisperer of secrets, and a testament to the fact that even the smallest objects could unlock the greatest mysteries. From that day on, Inky wasn't just a bookmark for keeping track of pages. He was a promise of adventure, a tiny guide leading curious minds to a world of forgotten knowledge hidden within the vast library walls. Pen_spark. And whenever a new reader entered the library, Inky would wiggle with anticipation, ready to guide them not just through stories, but to the whispers of the past and the secrets waiting to be unearthed.
In a bustling coral reef teeming with colorful life, lived a curious little fish named Finny. Unlike his fellow fish content with following the school, flitting between vibrant anemones and chasing plankton clouds, Finny preferred the thrill of the unknown. He spent his days darting through coral crevices, his shimmering scales itching to explore the vast expanse of the ocean beyond the reef. One sunny morning, a group of grumpy grouper led by Grouchbeard lumbered past Finny's favorite coral hideout. "Where are you rushing off to, little fish?" Grouchbeard rumbled, his voice echoing through the water. "There's nothing interesting beyond the reef, only danger." Finny, his tiny fins bristling with defiance, explained his dream of venturing out into the open ocean, a place whispered about by older fish filled with uncharted territories and magnificent creatures. Grouchbeard scoffed. "The open ocean? Ridiculous. There's nothing but emptiness and hungry sharks out there." Undeterred, Finny continued to dream. One day, a playful pod of dolphins led by Flipper, the fastest in the pod, zipped past the reef. "Come join us, little fish," Flipper chirped, his voice filled with excitement. "We're heading out to explore a shipwreck rumored to be filled with treasures." Finny, his heart pounding with anticipation, glanced nervously at the grumpy grouper. But Grouchbeard, uncharacteristically silent, seemed lost in thought. With a deep breath, Finny darted after the dolphins, his curiosity outweighing his fear. The journey to the shipwreck was exhilarating. Finny raced alongside the dolphins, dodging playful swipes from their fins and marveling at the vastness of the open ocean. The blue stretched endlessly in all directions, dotted with playful jellyfish and schools of shimmering fish unlike any he had seen before. Finally, they reached the shipwreck, a skeletal remains of a once grand ship, encrusted with barnacles and coral. The dolphins, unable to navigate the tight spaces, encouraged Finny to explore. With a newfound confidence, Finny squeezed through a broken porthole. Inside the shipwreck, sunlight filtered through cracks in the hull, illuminating a dazzling array of objects, shimmering seashells, lost jewelry, and even a captain's hat adorned with a sparkling seashell. Finny, overwhelmed by the beauty and history he found, realized the open ocean wasn't empty. It was a treasure trove waiting to be discovered. Emerging from the wreck, Finny rejoined the dolphins, his scales shimmering with excitement. He shared his discoveries, his tales igniting a spark of curiosity even in the grumpy grouchbeard, who couldn't help but peek at the shipwreck from afar. From that day on, Finny wasn't just a fish following the school. He was an explorer, a tiny adventurer who showed everyone that the greatest wonders often lay beyond the familiar. He led curious fish on expeditions, dispelling myths about the open ocean and replacing fear with fascination. And whenever a young fish looked out at the vast blue expanse, they knew that even the smallest fish could have the biggest adventures, waiting just beyond the comfort of the coral reef.
In a bustling metropolis nestled amongst towering buildings, lived a curious little firefly named Flicker. Unlike his fellow fireflies who blinked their lights in unison, creating a mesmerizing nighttime display, Flicker preferred the thrill of hidden melodies. He spent his nights perched on a windowsill overlooking a bustling music store, his tiny bioluminescent body yearning to translate the music wafting through the open window into his own light show. One starlit evening, a young violinist named Sarah practiced her instrument, her bow dancing across the strings. The music, a melancholic melody filled with longing, spilled out the window and reached Flicker. He vibrated with an unfamiliar intensity, his tiny light pulsing in response to the emotions in the music. As Sarah continued to play, Flicker wasn't content with just glowing. He wanted to create a symphony of light, a visual echo of the music that resonated with him. With a determined flutter, he launched himself from the windowsill and into the music store. Sarah, startled by the sudden movement, stopped playing. She looked around, her eyes searching for the source of the disturbance. But all she saw was a tiny speck of light hovering near her violin case. Hesitantly, Sarah picked up her violin and began to play again. This time, as the melody filled the air, Flicker danced. His light dimmed and brightened, swirled and pulsed, mimicking the rise and fall of the notes. He flitted around the music stand, creating a mesmerizing display of light that mirrored the emotions in the music. Sarah, mesmerized, watched in awe. It was as if her music had come alive, a breathtaking interplay of sound and light. Inspired by Flicker's performance, Sarah continued to play, pouring her emotions into the melody. The music soared, filled with newfound depth and expression, a beautiful collaboration between a violinist and a firefly. When the last note faded, the music store was bathed in a soft, warm glow emitted by Flicker. Sarah, her eyes shining with tears, looked at the tiny firefly with a grateful smile. "Thank you," she whispered, "you helped me find my voice." From that day on, Flicker wasn't just a firefly blinking in the night. He was a muse, a tiny translator of emotions who weaved light into music, creating a spectacle that touched hearts. Sarah, forever changed by their collaboration, incorporated Flicker's light show into her performances, captivating audiences with a mesmerizing display of music and bioluminescence. And whenever the music store doors swung open, Flicker would flutter in, ready to transform the melody into a symphony of light, a reminder that even the smallest spark could ignite extraordinary beauty. In a bustling fire station overflowing with clanging bells and the smell of singed toast, lived a curious little flame named Flicker. Unlike his fellow flames content with roaring in the furnaces, Flicker dreamt of adventures beyond the sooty depths of the boiler room, of igniting the spark of curiosity in the hearts of the firefighters he admired. He spent his days nestled within a gas lamp, his tiny tongue flickering with anticipation, yearning to dance with the brave heroes who saved lives. One rainy night, the alarm blared, its piercing wail slicing through the station. a young firefighter named Alex, his eyes filled with unwavering determination, raced towards the fire truck. Alex wasn't just trained to extinguish blazes, he possessed an empathy for those in danger, a burning desire to comfort amidst the chaos. Flicker, his tongue dancing with excitement, knew this wasn't just another fire, it was a mission to protect and reassure. With a determined pop, Flicker detached himself from the gas lamp and landed with a soft thud on Alex's helmet. Alex, startled for a moment, peered down at the unusual sight, a tiny flame defying gravity, nestled amongst the soot and grime. But something about Flicker, perhaps the way he pulsed with a warm, comforting light, drew Alex in. An unexpected companion, Alex chuckled, a warm feeling spreading through him despite the urgency of the situation. Inspired by Flicker's unwavering light, Alex climbed onto the fire truck and joined his team, the roar of the engine echoing their determination. The fire engulfed an old bookstore, its flames licking at the night sky. As Alex and his team charged into the building, smoke billowed around them, obscuring their vision. Fear flickered in the eyes of a young boy trapped inside, clutching a worn teddy bear. Flicker, nestled on Alex's helmet, wasn't just a source of light, he was a beacon of hope. He guided Alex through the smoke-filled maze, his warm glow illuminating the path towards the frightened boy. When Alex found him, trembling and lost, Flicker pulsed with a gentle light, casting away the shadows of fear. Alex, his voice calm and reassuring, spoke to the boy, his empathy radiating like Flicker's warmth. He carried the boy out of the burning building, Flicker perched on his helmet like a tiny guardian flame. Safe outside, the boy, no longer afraid, clutched his teddy bear tighter, a flicker of gratitude shining in his eyes. From that day on, Flicker wasn't just a flame. He was a symbol of empathy, a tiny spark that ignited the fire of compassion within firefighters. Alex, forever changed by their collaboration, incorporated fire safety education into his work, using storytelling and empathy to connect with children and families. And whenever the alarm blared, Flicker would wait patiently on Alex's helmet, his tiny tongue flickering, ready to guide them not just through fire, but through the darkness of fear, reminding everyone that even the smallest light can make a world of difference.
In a bustling clock tower nestled amongst cobblestone streets, lived a curious little gear named Cogsworth. Unlike his fellow gears, content with their rhythmic rotations, keeping the clock hands turning faithfully, Cogsworth dreamt of a world beyond predictable timekeeping. He spent his days nestled deep within the clock's machinery, his cogged teeth yearning to explore the intricate workings of the tower, a labyrinth of bells, chimes, and hidden passages. One stormy night, as lightning cracked across the sky and wind howled around the tower, a loose bolt rattled free, causing a malfunction in the clockwork. The giant pendulum swung wildly, throwing Cogsworth off his axle and sending him tumbling down a dark shaft. He landed with a clatter in a dusty chamber filled with forgotten mechanisms and ancient sundials. Fear turned to excitement as Cogsworth realized he was in a hidden part of the clock tower, a place untouched by time. With a determined whir, Cogsworth began to explore. He navigated through a maze of rusty gears, climbed over towering weights, and marveled at intricate astronomical devices that measured the passage of time in ways he never knew existed. As he explored, Cogsworth stumbled upon a magnificent contraption, a celestial map carved into a giant brass plate, its intricate lines depicting constellations and the movement of planets. It was a forgotten masterpiece, a testament to the tower's astronomical heritage. Suddenly, a booming voice startled him. Who dares disturb the ancient secrets? A giant, rusted key with a booming voice emerged from the shadows. Cogsworth, his tiny cogs whirring nervously, explained his curiosity and his fascination with the forgotten time-keeping devices. The key, named Chronos, softened. He had been alone for centuries, guarding the tower's forgotten history. Cogsworth, with his youthful enthusiasm, rekindled Chronos' love for the tower's astronomical past. Together, they spent days repairing the celestial map and deciphering its secrets. One day, Cogsworth noticed a worn inscription on the map. Align the stars, unlock the chime. He realized this could be the key to fixing the malfunctioning clockwork. With Chronos' guidance, They used the celestial map to align the clock tower's bells with the positions of specific stars. As the final star aligned, a magical chime resonated through the tower, unlike any heard before. The clockwork whirred back to life, the hands resuming their steady rotation, but with a newfound precision thanks to the knowledge of the celestial map. From that day on, Cogsworth wasn't just a gear for keeping time. He was a historian, a tiny explorer who unlocked the forgotten secrets of the clock tower, linking the past, present, and future of timekeeping. He became a bridge between Kronos and the clockworkers, reminding everyone that even the smallest cog could play a vital role in the grand symphony of time. And whenever the wind howled around the tower, Cogsworth would look up at the stars, a testament to his adventure and the magic that could be found hidden within familiar places.
In a bustling post office nestled amongst towering mailboxes, lived a curious little stamp named Sticklisha, different story, same name, but different adventure. Unlike her fellow stamps with travel aspirations of exotic locales, Sticklisha dreamt of unearthing the stories hidden within the letters she adorned. She spent her days tucked away in a forgotten roll, her sticky surface yearning to be used on more than just postcards and birthday greetings. One rainy afternoon, an elderly woman named Miss Penny entered the post office, her eyes filled with a melancholic longing. She carefully selected a beautiful, antique postcard depicting a lighthouse on a stormy cliff and approached the counter. Sticklisha, nestled amongst a pile of generic stamps, vibrated with a peculiar energy. This wasn't just any letter, it held a story waiting to be discovered. With a daring wiggle, Sticklisha detached herself from the roll and landed right next to the regular stamp Miss Penny was holding. Miss Penny gasped, surprised to see the unusual stamp. But something about Sticklisha, perhaps the intricate details of the lighthouse etched on its surface, drew her in. "This one seems perfect," Miss Penny murmured, a flicker of a smile gracing her lips as she placed both stamps on the postcard. The address was scrawled in a familiar, loopy handwriting, addressed to a name Miss Penny hadn't seen in decades, her childhood pen pal, Emily. Sticklisha's journey was unlike any other. The postcard, adorned with a lighthouse stamp that seemed to hold 1,000 stories, traveled across mountains, over oceans, and through bustling cities. Finally, it reached its destination, a quaint cottage nestled on a cliff overlooking a stormy sea. Emily, now a grown woman with streaks of silver in her hair, gasped in surprise as she saw the postcard. The lighthouse illustration and the unfamiliar stamp sparked a wave of memories. As she read the heartfelt message from Miss Penny, filled with stories of their childhood adventures and rekindled friendship, a tear rolled down her cheek. Inspired by the postcard and the little lighthouse stamp, Emily decided to reply. She rummaged through her attic, unearthing an old showbox overflowing with childhood keepsakes, seashells collected on their beach adventures, faded photographs, and a tiny lighthouse model they had built together. With trembling hands, Emily crafted a reply, filling the letter with stories of their shared past and her own life updates. She tucked a few keepsakes inside the envelope and affixed a stamp, a beautiful seashell stamp, a reminder of the days they spent collecting treasures by the sea. The reply letter, adorned with the seashell stamp, embarked on a return journey, carrying not just words but a piece of their shared history. When it reached Miss Penny, a wave of nostalgia washed over her as she held the letter, the seashell stamp a symbol of their rekindled connection. From that day on, Sticklisha wasn't just a stamp for sticking to envelopes. She was a bridge between hearts, a tiny time traveler who reconnected old friends and reignited the magic of forgotten memories. And whenever a new sheet of stamps arrived at the post office, the postal workers would whisper tales of the lighthouse and seashell stamps, a reminder that even the smallest stamp could hold the key to unlocking stories that spanned a lifetime.
In a bustling hospital nestled amongst towering buildings, lived a curious little button named Buttonia. Unlike her fellow buttons adorning crisp white coats, content with holding pockets closed and keeping doctors looking professional, Buttonia dreamt of adventures beyond the sterile walls. She spent her days tucked away in a forgotten drawer, yearning to explore the human body, a vast and intricate world hidden beneath the skin. One sunny morning, a young doctor named Dr. Anya slipped on her white coat, her stethoscope dangling around her neck. As she reached for a button, Buttonia, with a determined wiggle, launched herself out of the drawer and landed on the doctor's desk. Dr. Anya, startled, picked up the tiny button. She examined it with a curious smile. A loose button, she murmured, then glanced around for a coat that needed mending. But before she could put Buttonia away, an idea sparked in her eyes. Wait, she said, her voice filled with excitement. This little button might be just what I need. Dr. Anya was working on a revolutionary new invention, a tiny camera small enough to be swallowed. It looked like a pill, but with a special button on the side. The problem? The existing button was too bulky and wouldn't fit on the miniature camera. Buttonia, her tiny surface glistening in the sunlight, seemed like the perfect solution. Dr. Anya carefully attached her to the side of the camera, transforming Buttonia from an ordinary button into a vital part of an extraordinary invention. The next day, Dr. Anya used the camera to examine a young patient named Leo who was experiencing unexplained stomach aches. The camera, swallowed by Leo and guided by Dr. Anya through a computer screen, revealed a tiny blockage in his intestines. Thanks to Buttonia's unique size and Dr. Anya's ingenuity, Leo received the treatment he needed, feeling much better in no time. As Leo recovered in his hospital bed, he held Buttonia, now detached from the camera but a hero nonetheless. From that day on, Buttonia wasn't just a button for holding pockets closed. She was a medical marvel, a tiny adventurer who played a crucial role in helping people heal. And whenever Dr. Anya donned her white coat, she knew that even the smallest button could hold the key to unlocking groundbreaking discoveries within the human body.
In a bustling coral reef teeming with colorful life, lived a curious little seashell named Shelly. Unlike her fellow seashells content with clinging to rocks and swaying gently in the current, Shelly dreamt of stories whispered by the ocean. She spent her days nestled amongst vibrant coral, her pearly white surface yearning to capture the tales carried on the waves. One sunny morning, a group of playful dolphins led by Finny, the fastest in the pod, zipped past Shelly's coral hideaway. "Come join us, Shelly," Finny chirped, his voice filled with excitement. "We're heading to a shipwreck rumored to hold treasures from a long-lost civilization." Shelly, her pearly surface shimmering with anticipation, peeked out from her shell. The thought of a shipwreck filled with stories sent shivers down her curved spine. But a voice of caution piped up from behind her. It was Bernard, a grumpy old hermit crab known for his dislike of adventure. "Don't be ridiculous, Shelly," he grumbled. "Shipwrecks are dangerous places. You'll get lost or worse, eaten by a shark." Undeterred, Shelly yearned to join the dolphins. With a determined wiggle, she detached herself from the coral and landed with a plop on Finnis' back. Together, they raced towards the shipwreck, a skeletal silhouette against the blue horizon. The journey was exhilarating. Shelly clung to Finnis' back, feeling the rush of water as they weaved through schools of shimmering fish and dodged playful sea turtles. As they neared the shipwreck, encrusted with barnacles and coral, a shiver of excitement ran through Shelly. This was it, the place whispered about in the currents, a treasure trove of stories waiting to be unearthed. The dolphins, unable to navigate the tight spaces within the wreck, encouraged Shelly to explore. With a newfound confidence, Shelly rolled through a broken porthole, her smooth surface brushing against ancient artifacts. Inside the shipwreck, sunlight filtered through cracks in the hull, illuminating a treasure trove of objects, rusted tools, tarnished jewelry, and even a weathered captain's log. As Shelly rolled around, her inner surface buzzing with excitement, she noticed faint etchings on the walls. These weren't just scratches, they were symbols, a forgotten language whispering stories of the ship's journey and its tragic end. Emerging from the wreck, Shelly rejoined the dolphins, her shell etched with the symbols. She couldn't decipher them, but she knew they held stories waiting to be told. Back at the reef, despite Bernard's scoffs, Shelly shared her adventure with the other seashells. She described the shipwreck, the artifacts, and most importantly, the mysterious symbols. Her tale sparked curiosity amongst the younger seashells. Soon, a group of them, inspired by Shelly's bravery, embarked on a mission to learn the language of the symbols. Together, they deciphered the stories of the shipwreck, piecing together the history of the lost civilization. From that day on, Shelly wasn't just a seashell clinging to a rock. She was a keeper of stories, a tiny historian who unveiled the secrets of the ocean depths. The reef became a place of shared knowledge, with stories passed down from generation to generation, all thanks to a curious seashell who dared to venture beyond her comfort zone. And whenever a current whispered a new tale, Shelly would wait eagerly, her pearly surface ready to capture the stories carried on the waves.
In a bustling orchestra pit nestled amidst towering instruments, lived a curious little tuning fork named Tingle. Unlike his fellow tuning forks content with maintaining a single, perfect pitch, Tingle dreamt of melodies that defied traditional harmony. He spent his days nestled in a dusty instrument case, his metal prongs yearning to explore the dissonant corners of sound, the places where beauty could be found in unexpected vibrations. One starlit evening, a young composer named Luna arrived at the concert hall, her eyes blazing with a fire unlike any Tingle had ever seen. She wasn't there to rehearse a familiar piece, she was there to create something new, something that pushed the boundaries of music. Tingle, his prongs vibrating with anticipation, watched as Luna carefully positioned the instruments on their stands. She placed a grand piano at the center, flanked by a mournful cello and a playful clarinet. This wasn't the usual orchestral setup, and Tingle couldn't wait to hear the music they would create. As Luna raised her baton, a hush fell over the orchestra. Then, she began to conduct. The music flowed, unlike anything Tingle had ever heard. The piano pounded out a discordant rhythm, the cello wailed a mournful melody, and the clarinet trilled with a manic energy. It was chaotic, unsettling, yet strangely beautiful. Tingle felt a pull, an urge to be a part of this unconventional symphony. With a determined wiggle, he launched himself out of the instrument case and landed on the edge of the piano. The conductor, startled for a moment, recovered quickly, her eyes widening with a hint of a smile. Perhaps this wasn't a mistake, but a spark of inspiration. As Luna continued to conduct, Tingle vibrated with the music. He clinked against the piano's strings, creating a sharp, metallic counterpoint. He tapped the music stand, adding a percussive element to the chaos. The orchestra, initially hesitant, began to adapt. The violinist scraped his bow across the strings, creating a screeching sound. The percussionist pounded the drums with a frenetic rhythm. The music became a cacophony, a clash of discordant notes and unconventional sounds. Yet, amidst the chaos, there was a strange beauty, a raw emotion that resonated deep within the audience. They weren't used to this type of music, but they couldn't look away. When the final note faded, the hall erupted in applause, a mixture of confusion and awe. Luna, a triumphant smile on her face, looked down at Tingle. "Thank you," she whispered, "you helped me create something truly unique." From that day on, Tingle wasn't just a tuning fork for maintaining perfect pitch. He was a disruptor, a tiny innovator who showed everyone that beauty could be found in the most unexpected places, even in the dissonance between notes. Luna, forever changed by their collaboration, continued to compose music that challenged the norm, each piece a testament to the power of embracing the unconventional. And whenever a new conductor raised their baton, Tingle would wait eagerly, his prongs poised to vibrate, ready to add a touch of discordant beauty to the symphony.
In a bustling city library nestled amongst towering shelves overflowing with stories, lived a curious little bookmark named Mark. Unlike his fellow bookmarks holding their places dutifully, Mark dreamt of adventures beyond the crisp pages of well-worn novels. He spent his days tucked away in a forgotten box of trinkets, his silky tassel yearning to explore the fantastical worlds hidden within the library walls. One rainy afternoon, a young girl named Lily entered the library, her eyes filled with a thirst for knowledge. She bypassed the rows of shiny new releases, drawn instead to a dusty corner filled with ancient leather-bound books. Mark, his tassel quivering with anticipation, knew this wasn't just any visit, it was a quest for a story waiting to be discovered. As Lily carefully pulled out a book with a faded cover depicting a swirling galaxy, Mark vibrated with excitement. This wasn't just another story, it was a portal to a universe beyond imagination. With a determined wiggle, he slipped out of the box and landed with a soft thud on the open book. Lily, startled for a moment, gasped in surprise. Nestled amongst the yellowed pages was a shimmering bookmark unlike any she had seen before. But something about Mark, perhaps the intricate constellations embroidered on his tassel, drew her in. With trembling fingers, Lily placed Mark on the first page and began to read. The words unfolded a tale of a young inventor named Anya who built a rocket ship from spare parts and dreamt of exploring the cosmos. As Lily turned the pages, guided by Mark's gentle nudges, the library transformed. The towering shelves morphed into towering mountains, the flickering fluorescent lights became twinkling stars, and the hushed whispers of other readers became the roar of a rocket engine. Mark, his tassel shimmering with the reflected starlight of the story, wasn't just keeping Lily's place, he was becoming part of the adventure. He guided her finger through hidden passages in the book, revealing secret maps and forgotten constellations that unlocked new chapters in Anya's journey. The story unfolded like a celestial map, leading Anya and Lily through fantastical encounters with alien creatures, breathtaking nebulas, and planets made entirely of candy. Lily, captivated by the tale, devoured the book, her imagination soaring alongside Anya. When she reached the final page, a bittersweet feeling washed over her. The library had returned to its familiar state, but the memory of her adventure with Anya and Mark lingered. Mark, nestled back amongst the yellowed pages, knew he had helped Lily discover a universe within the confines of the library walls. From that day on, Mark wasn't just a bookmark for holding a place. He was a portal maker, a tiny weaver of worlds who transported readers to fantastical realms hidden within the pages of books. Lily, forever changed by their collaboration, became a champion of the library, sharing her extraordinary experience with others. And whenever a child entered the dusty corner of ancient books, Mark would wait patiently, his tassel shimmering, ready to whisk them away on an adventure beyond imagination. In a bustling art supply store overflowing with vibrant colors, lived a curious little paintbrush named Pip. Unlike his fellow brushes content with being used for specific techniques, Pip dreamt of creating art that transcended form, capturing the essence of a feeling in a single stroke. He spent his days nestled in a cluttered bin overflowing with brushes of all shapes and sizes, his bristles tingling with the urge to paint not just objects, but emotions themselves. One sunny morning, a young artist named Noah wandered into the store, his eyes filled with a swirling mix of frustration and inspiration. He had been struggling with a painting for weeks, trying to capture the raw emotions of a thunderstorm he had witnessed, the power, the fear, the electrifying beauty. Pip, his bristles vibrating with anticipation, watched as Noah picked up different brushes, each stroke adding detail but failing to capture the storm's essence. With a determined wiggle, Pip launched himself out of the bin and landed right next to the brush Noah was using. Noah, startled, looked down at the unusual brush with a curious frown. A rebel, I see, he murmured, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. Intrigued by the odd brush, Noah dipped Pip in a mixture of deep blues, fiery oranges, and inky blacks. As he touched the brush to the canvas, something extraordinary happened. The paint didn't form neat lines or representational shapes. Instead, it exploded onto the canvas in a swirling vortex of color, mirroring the chaotic energy of the storm. There were sharp, jagged strokes for the crackling lightning, thick, swirling lines for the wind's fury, and splatters of vibrant colors for the fleeting flashes of light amidst the darkness. Noah stepped back, mesmerized. It wasn't a perfect representation of the storm, but it captured its essence perfectly. The raw power, the unsettling beauty, the fleeting moments of awe amidst the chaos. Tears welled up in his eyes, not of sadness, but of recognition. He had finally found a way to express the emotions that had been swirling within him. From that day on, Pip wasn't just a brush for painting details. He was an emotional conduit, a tiny artist who helped others translate their feelings onto the canvas. Noah, forever changed by their collaboration, used Pip to create a series of abstract paintings that resonated with people from all walks of life, a testament to the power of art to capture the human experience in all its messy, beautiful complexity. And whenever Noah stood before a blank canvas, Pip would wiggle in his hand, a silent promise that even the smallest brush could hold the potential to create art that spoke to the soul.
In a bustling city park teeming with life, lived a curious little pebble named Pete. Unlike his fellow pebbles content with being smoothed by countless footsteps, Pete dreamt of journeys beyond the park's familiar paths. He spent his days nestled beneath a sprawling oak tree, his rough surface yearning to explore the world beyond the chirping birds and rustling leaves. One sunny morning, a group of children, led by a spunky girl named Maya, gathered under the oak tree. Maya, unlike others who played tag or built sandcastles, held a magnifying glass and a tattered notebook, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. Pete, his surface vibrating with excitement, knew this wasn't just another day in the park. It was an expedition for discovery. As Maya carefully lifted the pebbles, examining them with her magnifying glass, Pete felt a tickle. With a determined wiggle, he lodged himself inside Maya's shoe, feeling the soft padding against his rough surface. Maya, startled to feel a bump, bent down and retrieved Pete, her eyes widening with surprise. "Look at this one," she exclaimed, holding Pete up to the sunlight. "It has these tiny stripes, almost like a map." Pete wasn't just a pebble. He was a treasure waiting to be deciphered. Maya, fueled by curiosity, spent the day following the faint stripes etched on Pete's surface. They led her on a winding path through the park, past a hidden clearing filled with wildflowers, and to a forgotten birdbath teeming with dragonflies. Each stop on the journey, Maya diligently recorded in her notebook, sketching the flowers and noting the types of insects they encountered. Pete, nestled in her pocket, felt a thrill with every new discovery. He wasn't just hitching a ride, he was leading the way. By the end of the day, Maya returned home, her notebook filled with observations and her heart brimming with wonder. Pete, back under the oak tree, felt a sense of accomplishment. He had helped Maya see the park in a new light, a place brimming with hidden secrets waiting to be uncovered. From that day on, Pete wasn't just a pebble to be stepped on. He was a map maker, a tiny explorer who led curious minds on adventures of discovery. Maya, forever changed by their collaboration, became a champion of nature, organizing park cleanups and nature walks, all inspired by the extraordinary journey with a tiny, striped pebble. And whenever Maya returned to the oak tree, Pete would wait patiently, his stripes shimmering, ready to guide her on another adventure within the familiar world of the park. In a bustling greenhouse overflowing with vibrant blooms, lived a curious little seed named Sprout. Unlike his fellow seeds content with waiting patiently to be planted, Sprout dreamt of journeys beyond the comforting embrace of the soil, of witnessing the world bathed in sunlight and kissed by the rain. He spent his days nestled in a paper packet labeled Mystery Mix, his tiny shell yearning to explore the kaleidoscope of colors that bloomed beyond the glass walls. One sunny morning, a young boy named Leo, with a mop of unruly brown hair and a thirst for knowledge, entered the greenhouse. He wasn't interested in familiar roses or predictable pansies. His eyes darted towards the corner filled with packets labeled Mystery Mix, each holding the promise of an unknown flower. Sprout, his shell vibrating with anticipation, knew this was his chance. With a determined wiggle, Sprout squeezed through a tiny tear in the paper packet and landed with a soft plop at Leo's feet. Leo, startled for a moment, bent down and examined the curious seed, unlike any he had seen before. Its shell shimmered with a rainbow sheen, hinting at the unknown beauty it held within. Intrigued, Leo carefully picked up Sprout and brought him home. He planted him in a small pot filled with fresh soil, his heart brimming with excitement for the surprise that awaited them both. Sprout, nestled in the darkness of the soil, felt a surge of anticipation. The journey had just begun. Days turned into weeks, and Leo diligently tended to Sprout, watering him and checking on him every day. Finally, a tiny green shoot emerged from the soil, reaching towards the sunlight streaming through the window. As days passed, the shoot unfurled into a slender stem, then two, each adorned with an unopened bud. One morning, Leo woke up to a sight that left him speechless. Sprout had bloomed, but not into a single flower. A cluster of blooms, each a different color of the rainbow, unfurled their delicate petals, creating a breathtaking spectacle. Violet, orange, red, yellow, green, blue, and indigo, a miniature rainbow danced on Leo's windowsill. The news of the rainbow bloom spread throughout the town. People flocked to Leo's house, marveling at the vibrant spectacle. Sprout, nestled amongst the blooms, basked in the admiration. He wasn't just a seed anymore. He was a symbol of wonder, a reminder that the most unexpected beauty can be found in the most mysterious of places. Leo, forever changed by their collaboration, dedicated himself to learning about exotic plants and the wonders of nature. He started a community garden, sharing his knowledge and the seeds of the rainbow bloom with others. And whenever a child visited the garden, their eyes wide with curiosity, Sprout, a tiny whisper in the wind, would encourage them to plant a seed, nurture it with care, and wait with anticipation for the beautiful surprise that awaited them.
In a bustling clock tower overlooking a bustling city, lived a curious little gear named Cog. Unlike his fellow gears working tirelessly to keep the hands of the clock turning, Cog dreamt of adventures beyond the rhythmic tick-tock, of stories whispered by the hands as they swept across the clock face. He spent his days nestled deep within the intricate machinery, his metallic teeth yearning to explore the city that unfolded beneath the clock tower's watchful gaze. One starlit night, a young artist named Luna climbed the winding stairs of the clock tower, her eyes filled with a yearning to capture the city's essence in her paintings. Luna wasn't interested in grand landmarks or bustling avenues. She sought the hidden beauty, the way sunlight kissed cobblestone streets, the melody of laughter echoing from a dimly lit cafe, the warmth of flickering lamplight cast on weary faces. Cog, his teeth whirring with excitement, watched as Luna set up her easel, the city lights twinkling like a scattered constellation below. This wasn't just another night, it was an opportunity to capture the city's soul. With a determined wiggle, Cog slipped out of his designated position and landed with a soft clink on the floor. Luna, startled, gasped as she saw the tiny gear with its intricate teeth gleaming in the moonlight. An unexpected muse, Luna murmured, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. Inspired by Cog's unconventional form, Luna dipped her brush in paint and began to work. Her strokes weren't precise or detailed. Instead, they mimicked the rhythmic whirring of the gears, the steady ticking of the clock, the constant flow of time that shaped the city's ever-changing life. Cog, nestled amongst her brushes, felt a sense of purpose. He wasn't just a gear, he was a tiny conductor, guiding Luna's hand to capture the city's symphony. As she painted, the city unfolded on the canvas, a bustling street market with vendors calling out their wares, a lone violinist playing a melancholic tune under a street lamp, a couple sharing a quiet kiss in a park bathed in moonlight. By dawn, Luna had finished her masterpiece. It wasn't a realistic portrayal of the city, but it captured its essence, the constant movement, the quiet moments, the beauty hidden in plain sight. Cog, nestled on the edge of the canvas, felt a warmth spread through his metal frame. He had helped Luna see the city in a new light, a world of stories woven into the fabric of time. From that day on, Cog wasn't just a cog in a machine. He was a muse, a tiny artist who inspired others to see the world beyond the obvious. Luna, forever changed by their collaboration, incorporated gears and clockwork motifs into her art, each piece a testament to the hidden stories whispered by the passage of time. And whenever a new artist climbed the stairs of the clock tower, Cog would wait patiently, his teeth gleaming, ready to inspire them to find beauty in the most unexpected places.
In a bustling library overflowing with whispered stories, lived a curious little bookmark named Inky. Unlike his fellow bookmarks holding their place dutifully, Inky dreamt of adventures beyond the crisp pages, of becoming a part of the fantastical worlds he guarded. He spent his days nestled in a dusty collection of forgotten fairy tales, his silky tassel yearning to interact with the brave knights and mischievous fairies trapped within the ink. One rainy afternoon, a young girl named Clara wandered into the library, her eyes filled with a hunger for adventure. She wasn't interested in the latest bestsellers or popular graphic novels. Her gaze drifted towards the forgotten corner, a haven for leather-bound tomes with faded gold lettering. Inky, his tassel vibrating with anticipation, knew this wasn't just another visit, it was a quest for a world waiting to be explored. As Clara carefully pulled out a book titled The Whispering Woods, depicting a moonlit forest on its cover, Inky wiggled with excitement. This wasn't just a story, it was a portal to a land of magic and wonder. With a determined wiggle, he slipped out of his hiding place and landed with a soft thud on the open book. Clara, surprised to see the unusual bookmark, gasped. Nestled amongst the yellowed pages was a vibrant green bookmark unlike any she'd seen before. But something about Inky, perhaps the shimmering golden thread woven into his tassel, drew her in. With trembling fingers, Clara tucked Inky into the book and began to read. The words unfolded a tale of a young princess named Anya who dreamt of venturing beyond the castle walls and exploring the enchanted forest that whispered secrets to the wind. As Clara turned the pages, guided by Inky's gentle nudges, the library transformed. The towering shelves morphed into towering trees, the flickering fluorescent lights became twinkling fireflies, and the hushed whispers of other readers became the rustling of leaves. Inky, his tassel shimmering with the reflected magic of the story, wasn't just keeping Clara's place, he was becoming part of the adventure. He guided her finger through hidden passages in the book, revealing secret waterfalls and forgotten ruins that unlocked new chapters in Anya's journey. The story unfolded like a magical map, leading Anya and Clara through encounters with talking animals, mischievous sprites, and a wise old tree who held the key to breaking a curse that shrouded the forest in darkness. Clara, captivated by the tale, devoured the book, her imagination soaring alongside Anya. When she reached the final page, a bittersweet feeling washed over her. The library had returned to its familiar state, but the memory of her fantastical adventure with Anya and Inky lingered. Inky, nestled back amongst the yellowed pages, knew he had helped Clara not just escape into a story, but experience it with all her senses. From that day on, Inky wasn't just a bookmark for holding a place. He was a portal weaver, a tiny bridge between reality and imagination. Clara, forever changed by their collaboration, became a champion of storytelling, writing her own fantastical tales and sharing them with others. And whenever a child entered the dusty corner of forgotten fairy tales, Inky would wait patiently, his tassel shimmering, ready to whisk them away on an adventure where they wouldn't just read the story, but become a part of it.
In a bustling bakery overflowing with the aroma of warm bread, lived a curious little measuring cup named Millie. Unlike her fellow cups content with holding precise amounts of sugar and flour, Millie dreamt of adventures beyond the stainless steel countertops, of crafting flavors that danced on the tongue and told stories through each bite. She spent her days nestled in a cluttered drawer filled with baking tools, her handle yearning to be a part of the symphony of ingredients that created culinary masterpieces. One sunny morning, a young boy named Kai, with eyes sparkling with mischief and a love for all things delicious, entered the bakery. Kai wasn't interested in pre-made cookies or predictable cupcakes. He held a tattered recipe book, its pages crinkled and stained with the remnants of past creations. Millie, her handle vibrating with anticipation, knew this wasn't just another baking session. It was an exploration of forgotten flavors. With a determined wiggle, Millie launched herself out of the drawer and landed with a soft clink beside the open recipe book. Kai, startled for a moment, peered at the unusual measuring cup with its faded markings and chipped paint. But something about Millie, perhaps the handwritten inscription on her side that read "Grandma's Secret Cookies," drew him in. An unexpected helper, Kai chuckled, a mischievous glint in his eyes. Inspired by the inscription and the worn recipe, Kai and Millie embarked on a baking adventure. The recipe was unlike any they had seen before. It called for ingredients like a sprinkle of laughter and a handful of stardust. Millie, nestled amongst the bowls, wasn't just measuring. She was a guide. She guided Kai's hand to add a pinch of whimsy with every scoop of flour, a dash of wonder with every drizzle of honey. The kitchen became a playground, filled with giggles as they mixed ingredients, flour dusting their faces like powdered sugar snow. As they baked, the aroma that filled the air wasn't just of sugar and butter. It was the scent of childhood memories, of rainy afternoons spent baking with Kai's grandmother. When the cookies finally emerged from the oven, golden brown and fragrant, they weren't just treats. They were tiny bites of nostalgia. Kai took a bite, his eyes widening in surprise. The cookies didn't just taste sweet. They tasted like laughter, like the warmth of a summer sun, like the comforting hug of a loved one. Tears welled up in his eyes, not of sadness, but of recognition. He had tasted a piece of his grandma's love through these cookies. From that day on, Millie wasn't just a measuring cup. She was a memory weaver, a tiny ingredient that brought forgotten flavors and cherished stories back to life. Kai, forever changed by their collaboration, continued to bake, using Millie and the tattered recipe book to create cookies that weren't just delicious, but evoked emotions and memories with every bite. And whenever a child entered the bakery, Their eyes filled with wonder, Millie would wait patiently, her handle gleaming, ready to help them bake not just a treat, but a delicious memory.
In a bustling orchestra pit overflowing with the melody of countless instruments, lived a curious little tuning fork named Tuning. Unlike his fellow instruments content with holding a single, perfect note, Tuning dreamt of exploring the vast spectrum of sound, of weaving harmonies that painted emotions onto the canvas of the air. He spent his days nestled in a velvet-lined case tucked away in the back, his prongs yearning to vibrate alongside the violins and cellos that brought music to life. One starlit night, a young conductor named Maya, her eyes filled with a passionate intensity, raised her baton before the assembled orchestra. Maya wasn't interested in a rigid performance of classical masterpieces. She sought to create a symphony that mirrored the vibrant tapestry of life, the chaos of a bustling city street, the gentle murmur of a flowing river, the heart-wrenching cry of a lone bird. Tuning, his prongs vibrating with anticipation, knew this wasn't just another concert, it was a quest to capture the world in sound. With a determined wiggle, Tuning launched himself out of his case and landed with a soft thud on the conductor's stand. Maya, startled to see the unusual instrument, gasped. Nestled amongst the sheet music was a small, silver tuning fork unlike any she'd seen before. But something about Tuning, perhaps the intricate etchings on his handle that resembled musical notes, drew her in. Intrigued, Maya held Tuning aloft and struck his prongs with a baton. A clear, pure note filled the air, resonating through the orchestra pit. It wasn't a part of the score, yet it felt strangely familiar. As if by instinct, the musicians began to improvise, their instruments echoing and responding to Tuning's unwavering note. Tuning, nestled in Maya's hand, wasn't just a tuning fork, he was a conductor of a different kind. He guided the musicians not with a baton, but with a symphony of vibrations, leading them through crescendos that mirrored a bustling city, soft melodies that mimicked a flowing river, and a single, mournful note that echoed the bird's cry. The music unfolded like a living story, transporting the audience to a world beyond the concert hall. They felt the rush of city life, the serenity of nature, and the poignant beauty of a solitary sound. Maya, with tears welling up in her eyes, conducted with a newfound passion, her emotions woven into the very fabric of the music. By the end of the performance, a stunned silence filled the hall, followed by a thunderous applause. The music had transcended notes and melodies, it had spoken to the soul. Tuning, clutched tightly in Maya's hand, felt a warmth spread through his metal body. He had helped create a symphony that resonated with everyone present. From that day on, Tuning wasn't just a tuning fork. He was a bridge between emotion and sound, a tiny conductor who inspired musicians to create music that spoke not just to the ears, but to the very heart. Maya, forever changed by their collaboration, incorporated improvisation and audience interaction into her performances, transforming concerts into interactive experiences that painted the world in sound. And whenever Maya raised her baton, Tuning would wait patiently in her hand, his prongs poised, ready to weave a new sonic tapestry that would leave audiences breathless and forever touched.
In a bustling hospital nursery overflowing with the coos of newborns, lived a curious little sock named Patch. Unlike his fellow socks content with keeping tiny toes warm, Patch dreamt of adventures beyond the sterile drawers, of becoming a comfort not just for feet, but for anxious hearts. He spent his days nestled amongst identical pairs, his mismatched pattern, one blue with polka dots, the other a bright yellow with stripes, yearning to bring a smile to a tear-streaked face. One blustery afternoon, a young couple, Sarah and David, held their newborn son, Ethan, his tiny fists clenched tight. Sarah, her eyes filled with worry, watched the monitor displaying Ethan's erratic heartbeat. Unlike the steady, rhythmic beeps of the other newborns, Ethan seemed to struggle, a reflection of the uncertainty gnawing at Sarah's heart. Patch, nestled amongst a stack of white socks, vibrated with a peculiar energy. This wasn't just any delivery, it was a chance to bring comfort where it was needed most. With a daring wiggle, Patch launched himself out of the drawer and landed softly on the edge of Ethan's incubator. Sarah, surprised by the unexpected guest, gasped. It wasn't a regular sock, it was a mismatched pair, a splash of color in the otherwise sterile environment. But something about Patch, perhaps the playful contrast in his patterns, brought a flicker of a smile to her lips. Intrigued, Sarah gently picked up Patch and slipped his blue polka-dotted half onto Ethan's tiny foot. As if by magic, Ethan's restless movements subsided. He stared at the mismatched sock, his grip loosening slightly. Sarah, filled with a flicker of hope, slipped the yellow-striped sock on his other foot. The effect was immediate. Ethan's erratic heartbeat began to slow, mirroring the steady rhythm of Sarah's own hand as she stroked his cheek. Patch, nestled on Ethan's feet, wasn't just keeping him warm, he was a tiny beacon of comfort, a reminder that even the smallest things could bring a sense of peace. From that day on, Patch wasn't just a mismatched sock. He was a soother of worries, a tiny symbol of hope that brought smiles to anxious parents' faces. Nurses, inspired by Patch's magic, began using mismatched socks to bring a touch of whimsy to the nursery. The sterile environment softened, replaced by a sense of playful comfort. And as for Ethan, he grew up healthy and strong, his tiny feet eternally linked to the memory of the mismatched socks that brought him comfort in his first moments of life. Whenever a new baby arrived, filled with the uncertainties of their new world, Patch would wait patiently, his mismatched patterns a beacon of reassurance, reminding everyone that even the smallest, most unexpected things could bring warmth, comfort, and the promise of a happy ever after.
In a bustling post office overflowing with parcels and postcards, lived a curious little stamp named Sparky. Unlike his fellow stamps yearning for exotic destinations, Sparky dreamt of journeys beyond envelopes, of igniting a spark of curiosity about the vast universe that stretched beyond the mailroom walls. He spent his days nestled in a forgotten roll of space-themed stamps, his adhesive surface tingling with anticipation to explore the cosmos. One starry night, a young girl named Luna, with eyes wide with wonder and a head full of questions, entered the post office. Luna wasn't interested in birthday cards or bills. She craved stories that whispered of distant planets, swirling galaxies, and the possibility of life beyond Earth. Sparky, his adhesive practically vibrating, knew this wasn't just another customer. It was a chance to ignite a lifelong passion. With a daring wiggle, Sparky detached himself from the roll and landed with a soft plop right next to the postcard Luna was holding. The postcard depicted a breathtaking scene of Saturn's rings, and Sparky, with his design of a rocket blasting off, seemed to complete the picture. Luna, captivated by the unusual stamp, gasped. Unlike the others, this one seemed to pulse with a faint inner light. An out-of-this-world choice, Luna chuckled, a mischievous glint in her eyes. Inspired by Sparky's design, Luna addressed the postcard to the farthest corner of the universe. And on the back, she wrote a question that had always lingered in her mind. Are we alone? With a determined lick of the adhesive, Luna stuck Sparky on the postcard and dropped it in the mailbox. Sparky, nestled on the postcard, wasn't just a stamp anymore. He was a tiny ambassador, carrying a message of curiosity across the vast expanse of space. Days turned into weeks, and Luna almost forgot about the postcard. Then, one morning, a peculiar package arrived at the post office, addressed to Luna in an unfamiliar, swirling script. Inside, nestled amongst stardust like packing peanuts, was a small, smooth stone unlike anything Luna had ever seen. Attached to it was a tiny note written in the same swirling script. We are listening. News of Luna's message from space spread like wildfire. Scientists, children, and even skeptical adults were captivated. Sparky, displayed in a glass case at the post office, became a symbol of humanity's quest for knowledge. Luna, forever changed by her interaction with Sparky, became a renowned astrophysicist, dedicating her life to unraveling the mysteries of the cosmos. And whenever a child gazed at the stars, their eyes filled with wonder, Sparky, a tiny beacon of curiosity, would remind them that even the smallest question, carried on the wings of imagination, could spark a connection across the universe, proving that we are not alone in our search for answers among the stars.
In a bustling classroom overflowing with the murmur of young minds, lived a curious little eraser named Dusty. Unlike his fellow erasers content with erasing mistakes, Dusty dreamt of journeys beyond the confines of notebooks, of leaving his mark not by erasing, but by revealing the hidden stories beneath the surface. He spent his days nestled in a cluttered pencil case filled with writing tools, his rectangular body yearning to explore the vibrant world captured in children's drawings. One sunny morning, a shy girl named Lily, with eyes full of nervous excitement, sat down at her desk. Lily wasn't interested in copying perfect shapes or writing neat sentences. Her imagination ran wild, filling her notebook with fantastical creatures, faraway lands, and stories whispered by the wind. Dusty, his edges vibrating with anticipation, knew this wasn't just another drawing lesson, it was a voyage into the boundless realm of creativity. With a determined wiggle, Dusty launched himself out of the pencil case and landed with a soft thud on Lily's desk. Lily, startled to see the unusually worn eraser with its rainbow-colored stripes, gasped. But something about Dusty, perhaps the way the light glinted off his worn surface, sparked a curiosity within her. An unusual friend, Lily whispered, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. Inspired by Dusty's rainbow stripes, Lily dipped her crayon in a vibrant blue and began to draw. Her strokes weren't perfect, but they were filled with a sense of wonder. She drew a majestic blue whale swimming through a swirling ocean, its tail fin disappearing into a cloud of colorful bubbles. Dusty, nestled beside her crayon, wasn't there to erase mistakes. He was there to reveal possibilities. As Lily continued to draw, gently rubbing Dusty across the paper, the ocean transformed. Schools of shimmering fish appeared, playful dolphins jumped through the waves, and a hidden coral reef, bursting with life, peeked out from the seafloor. With each stroke and gentle rub, Lily's world on the page grew richer, more detailed. Dusty wasn't just erasing, he was revealing the hidden depths of her imagination. The blue whale, once solitary, became surrounded by a vibrant ecosystem, a testament to the interconnectedness of life. Lily, emboldened by Dusty's presence, filled her notebook with fantastical creatures, each one brought to life not just by her drawing, but by the gentle whispers of possibilities revealed by Dusty's touch. By the end of the day, Lily's notebook wasn't just filled with drawings, it was a vibrant tapestry woven from her imagination and Dusty's unique talent. From that day on, Dusty wasn't just an eraser. He was a revealer, a tiny artist who helped others see the extraordinary potential hidden beneath the surface. Lily, forever changed by their collaboration, became a champion of creativity, encouraging others to embrace their mistakes and see them as stepping stones to something even more beautiful. And whenever a child sat down to draw, their eyes filled with wonder, Dusty would wait patiently, his rainbow stripes shimmering, ready to help them not just draw, but create worlds where anything was possible.